Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Max Frequency Podcast. I am your host, Max Roberts, and I am joined this time by returning guest, Marc Try4ce Duddleson. Hello, Try. How are you?
Doing great. I think this is going to be a really fun one.
Oh, my goodness. I was telling you before the show, you were first on my mind to come talk about the Nintendo Direct, and that was before we watched it.
I know, right? I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a really fun thing to do. And then it happened. I'm like, okay, like Friday night's going to be pretty fun, actually.
Yeah, this is going to be a super great show. We are here to talk about the Nintendo Direct from E3, Summer Game Fest. I don't know.
E3 season. Fake E3.
It's E3 in my heart forever. I can't uncall it that. So, but before we talk about the Direct, I just wanted to catch up a little bit from the last time you were on the show, which was, I want to say like September or August of last year, I think.
Wow. Was it?
I think.
Last year? Was it last year? I can't remember if it was last year or...
It was, because your Tink video hadn't come out yet.
Okay.
You had like the production model of it.
But I had it. Oh, yeah, okay.
So we got to talk a little bit. Yeah, okay, so that was episode 30, Born to Test This Stuff. That was what I called it. And that was August 30th was when that went up. So
was Corey and I on the episode at the same time, or did we do it separately? I don't remember.
Separate. He did the next episode, which was, I called that one the release date of this house, because he was talking about his house. So I had a good little My Life in Gaming back-to-back double special. It was a blast to have both of you on. And so I'm happy to have you back. But I have a RetroTink 4K now.
Yeah.
Woo, in the club. I got part of that second wave was when I could afford one. And can I just tell you, it's amazing.
It's, oh my gosh, like it's pretty darn polished.
It's so good.
I gotta say. But like when I first got it, I was just so obsessed with seeing what I could do with the digital input. Because like, we hadn't really been able to do anything like that before. There was an HDMI input on the FrameMeister, but it wasn't that useful. But here, like I was, so that's why in our video on the RetroTink 4K, Corey handled kind of a small analog video section because we wanted to acknowledge it in some of the most important key points, but I really kind of wanted the focus of the video be the HDMI stuff because I just had so much I wanted to say about it because there was just things that I've been chomping at the bit to do for years that I could finally do with digital sources on this thing. And it was, I was just so excited about it. And it wasn't until I actually see, you've got it here on your, on your list
you
of,
talk about it. Yeah.
Things to mention. Yeah. The SNES, so-called 2-chip bypass, mod, which is for sharpening up the blurrier, earlier Super Nintendo systems. And I say earlier, but it's most Super Nintendo systems out there, most that were released before 1995, and including some that were released in 1995. They have much blurrier output. Some people like it, but, I think if you're upscaling it, it's not really helpful for that look. I mean, if you're going for like a pure like consumer CRT look, the way I see it, there's kind of two very valid paths. Either you like lean all the way into getting like a nice CRT look, or you lean all the way into getting a sharp pixel look. And like kind of meeting like halfway in between as a compromise on either of those like doesn't work amazingly. And so this gives you that option with these earlier systems if you do want to go for that really clean, really sharp look. That's what that 2-chip mod does. But yeah, I used that episode to kind of learn more about the analog side of the RetroTink 4K for myself. Because I wanted to capture that in 4K, and that's kind of how I treat a lot of the videos. I mean, maybe most of the videos I do is I'm interested in this subject. I want to learn more about it, and the process of making the video is basically how I teach myself.
I think that's most video stuff. It's like I just did a video actually on in testing all of I I just went through a journey of figuring out how to convert and back up all of my N64 saves. I got one of those cartridge readers.
Yes, yes.
And then I learned how to convert them,
like that the
open source save file thing.
Yeah. I dumped my Mischief Makers save on that recently because a friend was going to be streaming Mischief Makers, and we ultimately ended up using the EverDrive anyway, so it didn't really matter. But I was like, well, if we're going to use the cartridge, that game only has 2 saves on it, and I don't want to delete my saves,
right?
Because I kind of like it, because I don't know how familiar you are with Mischief Makers, but it's got for some reason it asks you to put your age on the save file. Okay. It's like it's not like for like the Dead or Alive like reasons. Like there's no change in the game.
They just want to know.
Yeah. There's no change in the game. It's just like, what's your age? And so it's like I just like the fact that like the age that I played through. Well, the first time I didn't finish it. The second time I did, but I just like seeing like, oh, age 17. Oh, age 24, whenever it is. Like it's just I don't know. It's kind of a cool snapshot. So I was like, well, I want to ensure that I don't lose that save if we do use this cartridge. So, but anyway, yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but I just got excited because I'd actually been using it recently myself.
It is, I think, an instrumental tool, especially if you like backing up all your stuff and then doing the thing where you're like converting it and using it on a WiiWare, bringing it digitally or bringing it back to the cartridge. I was actually just trying to do that for Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Because I have like
Corey could talk to you a whole stream about, or a whole podcast about this subject, by the way. He freaking loves save file preservation. I mean, he did a video. I don't know if you've seen, but he did a video on this.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Or a couple of videos, actually.
When it went up, it's like first click. I mean, most of your guys' videos are click right away. But anything with save preservation, I'm there. And so, in doing that, I noticed on my Pokemon Stadium cartridge that I had registered some Pokemon from my original Pokemon Blue. That save data is gone, but I had
long gone, yeah.
Yeah, but there was a Gengar and a Lapras, and then I got a Mew through like doing the Mew glitch, so not an official one. But they were on there, and I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. How do I get these off of this cartridge? And so I did this whole journey using the open source save thing, backup cartridge dumper, and a bunch of different tools, and I got it from the N64 cartridge into Pokemon Home on the Switch, except for the Mew, because it was flagged as, not legitimate, which I figured would happen. But the Lapras and the Gengar, like, totally made it. And I had to go from the N64 to the Game Boy, from the Game Boy to the 3DS Virtual Console version of Blue.
Oh, wow.
Because it has Pokemon Bank integration. And then from Bank to Home, and then Home to Scarlet.
Oh, my gosh.
So that was this whole web of connecting things. So, but the Pokemon made it. Man. They're there.
You got to talk to Corey about this sometime. You guys would have a blast.
Oh, I would love to. More and more save file discussions. So we did... I use the 4K all the time. I just had some buddies over for my birthday, and we were playing a GameCube, and it just, oh my gosh, it looks so good. And I got a Kirby for that as well, the new Kirby's.
Nice, yep. That's how I do it.
But I'm finally playing Tears of the Kingdom. I just started it like a couple weeks ago, and I'm using the Tink to just not only upscale to 4K 60, but I'm also turning the VRR flag on, and then letting my TV smooth out some of the frame hiccups. So like when you pull up the Ultra Hand and it kind of...
So does it actually work?
It smooths it a little bit. Really? The frame drops aren't everywhere, but because the TV, it's now just a VRR signal. And so the way I'm looking at it, the frame drops are noticeably not as aggravating. So it kind of is like smoothing out.
I've not experimented with that. I'll have to look into that.
I was like, maybe this will work, and it seems to work to my eye. Maybe I'm just It's a placebo effect. I'm just mesmerized by the tink. I don't know. But I actually the other day forgot to turn it on, and I was in the depths, and it was like there was a big combat thing, and I was like,
I'll have to experiment with this. I mean, one of the games that we're going to be talking about from this Nintendo Direct, I am particularly concerned about the frame rate on. So,
all right, I'm excited to hear about that then. So, yeah, we did that. And then there's one more thing I wanted. Well, two more, I guess. You guys did this really cool multi-game compilation video. It was a really unique idea. But I have to. This is your fault. And for the listeners, I'm showing Try that I've got the.
You got the Japanese. The one.
I did.
The 1,
so
2, 3,
that I could
4,
have the
5,
1, 2, 3, 4,
6.
5, 6 on the spines.
Isn't it great?
It is.
It just makes you feel good.
It does. So see, listener, I just showed him the Phoenix Wright 2 trilogies, the Apollo Justice and the original one. And I've wanted the original one since it came out because it was only physical in Japan. And then the new ones just came out not terribly long ago. And I wanted to pick up Apollo Justice, and then I watched your video, and I was like, well, guess I have to buy the Japanese one now. So the spines match. And Play Asia was having a sale where it was like 3 games for $100.
Oh, nice.
So I grabbed those 2, and then the third game I grabbed was Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate for the PS5 because the North American version is like $140 or something.
I know, it's really super. And the PS5 version of Crisis Core Reunion, I think that I might have seen like a reprint of that recently, but a couple of months ago, people were like, "Oh, that game's starting to get hard to find." I'm like, "What? Really? I didn't expect that." But
now I have to.
Now I got a PAL copy because I found a PAL copy for like $40 on like Amazon UK.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah.
So
then
I
know. Like what's up with Square Enix and these low print runs?
I don't get it. I walked into a GameStop, though, after they had shipped, finally, like a month later. And what do I see in the GameStop? Right there as I walk in by the door. Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate for the PS5 for $60. And I'm like, oh, now I have to buy this. So now I have 2 copies of Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, no.
But what are you going to do? I tried. I tried to do the good thing.
Yeah.
Now I'm stuck with both. But anyway... The 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are your fault. And maybe we'll talk about Phoenix Wright later.
Maybe we will. Who could say?
Who could say? And then the last thing, I don't think you saw this. I don't think I sent it to you or anything. But after your Retro Tink video, you have this beautiful diagram of your entire layout and flow.
Oh, no.
And it's a work of art. But I decided to try and do the math and figure out how many HDMI cables you had in this web. And you don't have to count it. But my calculations were at least 45.
Wow. And, I've changed things even since then.
Sure.
So because I was having some frustration. It's funny. My dad helps me keep track of business expenses, for tax purposes, and things that involve like my video game setup or business expenses in my world. Right?
Yes, no.
So, when we're going over like things that I've purchased, he's just like in disbelief every time I buy an HDMI cable because he's like, "Don't you have enough of those?" I'm like, well, the problem is like it's not always the right kind. Like it used to be, like when we were dealing with nothing more than 1080p 60. An HDMI cable was an HDMI cable, but now it's like, if you don't get the right kind, like it's going to be big problems. But
and then you have to track it down.
So that in that diagram there was like a 16 input HDMI switcher, which kind of annoyed me actually because it had issues passing certain surround sound signals, even though it shouldn't. Like it would just like the audio would just like drop for a few seconds or something. So I was like, I would like to eventually move that upstairs. So now I have like some redundant systems and older systems. Like for example, I've got an Xbox Series X in, my living room setup. Why do I need an Xbox One and an Xbox One X and an Xbox Series S in there. I mean, those are mostly only needed for, academic purposes, for work, right? Like, I might need to capture from one of those systems, but I don't need them in the living room. So, I recently moved those up to my retro room where, I've got like all my analog video systems hooked up. And so I moved the 16 input switcher. There's, every input on that is utilized. And then I have that running to like a 4-way splitter that also is going to another splitter. So, so you've already got like 16, 5 or 6 more there. And then you've got, 4 more by the time it gets to the AV receiver in that room. And then now that's not considering the downstairs setup, which now is 3 input HDMI 2.1 switcher, 2 5 input HDMI 2.0 switchers, and one of those is fed by another 5 input HDMI 2.0 switcher, which is going through an audio extractor because it like kind of corrects some audio issues. Like some of the mods I have, like PS1 Digital, GBA Consolizer, sometimes those have like weird audio, and for some reason going through the audio extractor normalizes it. And even though I don't actually extract the audio, it's just passing the HDMI. It just like it fixes the capture issues I have with some of those systems. So that feeds, that is fed by a 5 input switcher and then goes into one of the other switchers. So it's like, I have a, and then the way that it's routed from there, that goes to a couple other splitters to a couple of different capture devices. It's a lot of HDMI cables. And I'll tell you what, fiber internet is coming to my neighborhood soon. And I am very worried about how much I might have to move and unplug and plug in again depending on where they need to access the wall to get the fiber inside. So yes, this is, don't be like me, kids.
Have fewer HDMI. I did a thing where I took like a Saturday afternoon before my Tink. It was actually the day I ordered the Tink. I hadn't even ordered it yet, so I was really banking on I'd get one. But I took everything out and completely rewired everything and optimized it to feed into the Tink. And that took like 6 hours, so I can only imagine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes it takes me days, or like I'll work on it for like 2 days and then, it'll sit in an unfinished state for weeks because then like, it's like, well, actually I gotta get to work on this thing, and then, it's, oh gosh, it can take some doing.
Oh, it's so much fun. I love it all. But let's talk about the Nintendo Direct.
Yes,
I think the highlight of summer video game news for sure for me. I think this Direct crushed it.
For me too. I mean, the PlayStation showcase was pretty subdued. Jeff Fest or whatever you want to call it.
The Jeff
was
the key threes.
Key three, yeah. Well, yeah. There's a lot of ways you can call it. I can barely remember what even happened in it.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Xbox, real good. Perfect Dark. I'm quite interested. I like how they're doing like kind of some like sort of flexible approaches to your situations and stuff. It seems very different, but it also feels in the spirit of what they were trying to do with GoldenEye and Perfect Dark back in the day, so that real good show. But my heart is with Nintendo. That's just that's I'm born and bred Nintendo. It's been just so core to everything I like and video games, and
it's where I cut my teeth. My heart will always belong to it.
So yeah, I mean, the stuff they had here. I mean, this is one of the all-time greats. I mean, this is I mean, this is, I mean, maybe not of the level of like the crazy time when they like unveiled like Twilight Princess and just like the energy in the room. I mean, I wasn't there, but you know, everyone, you felt like you were there because of like, oh my gosh, when that was, I mean, that's one of the all time great, you know, Nintendo presentation moments. And this is, you know, in terms of the directs, I mean, this is up there. I mean, let me put it this way. When you're showing a Zelda game that no one saw coming 2/3 into the presentation, it's not the one more thing.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh. Like, this is a show.
And I think what's even more nutty about it is the fact that this is most likely the last full year of Switch. Like, whatever Switch 2, Super Switch, whatever it is, likely will be out by next summer.
No one saw this quality of show coming for, you know,
end of life.
You know,
end of life, quots around that. You know, like I those keep selling the Switch.
You know, for many years, Nintendo has been very much, you know, don't show your cards until, you know, they're almost ready to release, right? And, you know, I think that's actually a good approach, you know, because then, you know, the excitement of the reveal like kind of carries over to, hey, I can buy this not that far from now.
It applies to quite a few games that they showed off that were real big surprises.
Yeah. So, you know, when you go into the year thinking like, oh, what's Nintendo even got? Like, you know, you shouldn't discount that they've actually got a lot going on behind the scenes. They tend to be pretty good keeping stuff under their hat.
Yes, they do. I think we should dive right in with a game that a franchise I did not think would be returning in any capacity.
Yeah, no one saw this coming. Mario and Luigi Brothership.
What a name. It is immediately I recognized it as Mario and Luigi. As soon as Luigi popped out, I was like, oh my gosh, they're doing it again.
Yeah. I mean, the artwork was immediately recognizable. And it's really, you know, the in-game artwork on like, I got a confession to make. I've not played any of these since Bowser's Inside Story. So
Dream Team was the last one I played all the way. So that was the first 3DS one.
Okay.
I skipped Paper Jam, and I did not play the remakes.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe like later on the 3DS games, like the artwork kind of got, the in-game art maybe got a little more aligned with it didn't really?
No, I don't think so. I think the remakes
like
in particular, don't look all that hot.
Yeah, so I mean, you're for the first time, like you're playing this series with, and I like the art. I like that art style that Alpha Dream used for those games. You know, it's kind of got this sort of. There's like this weird glow kind of behind them, like doesn't seem to obviously come from anywhere. Like there's like a gradient.
You
can see it. Yeah, you can see this gradient like on their hats. Like it kind of gets like a little bluer towards the back, and it's a weird but cool look. And we've never. But yeah, like I said, I have not played any of these newer than Bowser's Inside Story, which is like so weird because like Mario RPG was like a life-changing game for me. And I love Mario games in general. It's very weird that I would just like stop playing Mario RPGs, but I got real tired of these games.
I think most people did because Alpha Dream went bankrupt in 2019, which is unfortunate. I don't know who's making this game.
I don't know. And so that's actually one of the reasons I'm interested, because it's going to be a new developer. I don't know if there could be some talent, possibly from the prior games. I always felt bad about not really liking these games because Alpha Dream was founded by co-founded by the director of Super Mario RPG. And I think they may have possibly had some other staff that was involved with it. And of course, they brought on Yoko Shimomura for all of the soundtracks, just like she did Super Mario RPG. So like, it felt like those games should be made for me, but kind of what turned me off over time was I felt like they spent so much time setting up everything for things in service of the jokes and less so in just making the flow of the game interesting and fun. It felt like the game was constantly being interrupted by, the talkie talks, just so they could say something funny. And, usually the writing was very funny, but I was very tired of how frequently the game was interrupted, just to tell a joke. And I was just like, I just got real tired of it. And I'm like, okay, it's funny, but like, I don't know if I need this again. So,
and I think, clearly after Paper Jam, it was, well, let's remake Superstar Saga, which I think made sense at the time because it was a Game Boy Advance game and it was, a way to kind of weaning down on the 3DS. That came out in 2017. So like, it's right there with the Switch. But then skipping Partners in Time, that felt wrong. I love Partners in Time is my favorite, so I was a little hurt. And doing Bowser's Inside Story instead, which is considered the best of the bunch. Mario RPG fans are eating so good right now. It's unbelievable. Super Mario RPG, 1,000 Year Door, and now a new Mario and Luigi game. It's
unbelievable. So yeah, this was, even though this is a series that I kind of wrote off, like I was just the sheer surprise of it was exciting enough. And then the fact that, well, it must be from a different developer. This is the first time it's been a console game. Some people might not consider the Switch a console, but I do. It totally new perspective. I'm like, okay, I will 100% give Mario and Luigi series another try. I'm giving it another chance. Like this is different enough. There's enough potential for this to do something different that I'm ready to believe again.
And what's cool is it's out in 5 months. It's just like, here, it's out this year. It's a good holiday chunk. November 7th. The game itself, the gameplay, it looks kind of like, I rewatched it before we got on the call. It looks like they're hopping around different islands that may or may not be themed after construction or something. There's spark plugs and hammers.
Yeah, there's a lot of like electricity sort of themed enemies. Yeah. I don't know if that's just like maybe one island has like the electric gang and like different types of enemies or later. I don't know, but like I did like the enemy designs and character designs and just that art style really comes to life quite cleanly. It looks great. It looks fun. It looks fun. I ain't gonna lie. I'm into it.
You and me both. Then they just reminded everyone that Nintendo World Championships NES Edition is out in a month. They're just like, hey, it's coming out. You should play it.
I didn't really pay that much attention to it because it's like, well, I'm getting it, I think that'll be like a fun game to like stream with friends.
Yeah, it reminds me, it's clearly in the vein of NES Remix 1 and 2.
Yes.
It's the same type of thing. I am hopeful for other editions eventually. I think that's cool. It is.
I loved how they said, beat specific challenges like beating Super Mario Brothers with warp pipes, or in one life while using warp pipes. And I'm like, well, that's just a Friday night for me.
It will be. I feel bad for the kid who's gonna be like, I can do this. I'll get on the leaderboards. And then all of the world's speedrunners are just owning the top leaderboard. It's just no one will be able to even get close to the top.
No, yeah. Competition on the world stage these days. It's what's even the point?
Yeah.
What's even the point?
It's so yeah, it was a good reminder. There was Fairy Tail 2 from Koei Tecmo.
Which is as a property I know absolutely nothing about.
You and me both. We can.
Yeah, it looked like a good enough RPG. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, but
I know nothing.
It looks like it's for people who know the characters, you know?
Yeah.
So
then we get a game that I'm happy is escaping the confines of mobile.
Yes. Oh, this is a megaton for me.
Yeah. Fantasian Neo Dimension. So Fantasian, or I think I'm saying that right. That came out on iOS, Apple Arcade back in, I want to say, it was 2021. April and August. It was two-parter. And it is from Mistwalker.
Hironobu Sakaguchi.
Yes, creator of Final Fantasy, producer of the game. His studio made this game with dioramas and then put the character models in these real... I mean, it's like Nightmare Before Christmas type, real diorama type things.
Right. They shot photographs of them.
Yes. And so the game's beautiful. I dabbled a little bit when it came out on iOS because I had the Apple Arcade subscription. But I never sat through and played it because I didn't, controller. I could have had a controller and played it on the screen. I don't know. There's just a disconnect in my brain.
Yeah.
But now that it is coming to console, complete altogether, I mean, this is like finally.
I've been dying for this. I mean, I am not an Apple guy. The only Apple thing I have is a hand-me-down Apple TV.
Yeah.
So I could have played this game, but still, it's just like that's just not where I play video games. And I was like, I wanted it so bad. I was so worried for years. Like, oh man, this game looks like it's just my thing. I love Sakaguchi. I was nervous this was never going to come to consoles. I believed, but I was nervous, and thank goodness it's happening. I think Sakaguchi really proved himself when he left Squaresoft, or it might have been Square Enix by the time he left, because yes, he has not made all that much stuff in the years since, but I guess there was always this kind of question in my head, like, is Final Fantasy great because of Sakaguchi, or was it great because of the people that were around him? And I think the fact that he was able to strike it out on his own and make games, especially like Lost Odyssey and The Last Story, both of which I love. I've not finished Lost Odyssey. I need to restart it. I got to disc 2 and then I hit like a difficulty spike. But what I played was, it was incredible. I absolutely loved it. And that is a very beloved game. And I think The Last Story on the Wii, like, is such a fun RPG, plays unlike anything else, has perhaps the best character banter between your party members of anything I've ever played. So he has proven himself, I would say, independently of Square Enix. And now Square Enix is helping bring this game to consoles.
I find that extremely ironic.
Yeah. And it seems like Sakaguchi's getting along really well with Square Enix in recent years. I've seen him in some marketing videos. He plays Final Fantasy 14. Seems to be good buds with Final Fantasy 14 producer Naoki Yoshida. And I'm just like, me and some of my friends have been talking, like, let's just Square Enix just like give Yoshida's team like all the resources Sakaguchi wants to make like Final Fantasy 17. Like, let Sakaguchi make one more Final Fantasy. Like, gosh, that would be so good.
It would be a pretty big pop-off kind of moment if that would happen. I'm just so thrilled that this game is coming to console for other people and for myself to actually dig into it. And I especially think the assets are going to look so good on like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. Like,
I'm planning to get a PS5 copy.
Yeah, I'm stoked. But it was very cool to see it on the Switch stage here. Then everyone's favorite sports video game, Nintendo Switch Sports, got basketball. That just felt like such a It's like sometimes the Wii era just comes back a little bit. Pokes its head up.
I've not played. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've heard it's a good game, but I've not played it.
Neither have I. I just think it's funny. It's like, we're having a
they
sport.
They got those characters in it that like are kind of like Mii's, but they're not Mii's, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
like just do Mii's. Like Mii's are classic.
Yeah, they fit. Then this game looked super cool. I'd never heard of it before, but Mio, Memories in Orbit, totally like a Metroidvania sci-fi looking thing. Very interesting flow of movement. My interest is piqued.
Yes, the art style was absolutely gorgeous. Just sort of really sketchy lines and limited use of color. I mean, not devoid of color, but it was limited in the way to where the colors that they did use really drew your eye.
Yeah, it gives me a little Ori vibes, a little Hollow Knight. Like, I feel like we're in a really good season of Metroidvania style games.
Yeah. Of course, really. I don't know if it. I mean, it does look like the kind of game that you like. That's probably a Metroidvania, but it could be a linear level based game.
It could be. But it definitely is giving the Metroidvania vibe.
I agree. And I'm pretty sure I looked this up. I think this is coming to other consoles as well. So again, for me, like, thanks for showing it to me, Nintendo, but I'm probably going to get... This looks like a game that would be better served by a more powerful system. So I'll get it on PS5.
Yes, same. Then we got this like little chunk of like some Disney DLC for Illusion Island, Hello Kitty Animal Crossing, Island Adventure, Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports, which is the most PS2 cel-shaded thing I've seen in a hot minute. That was something. Some Among Us DLC, and then Farmagia.
Farmagia, that name got me. I mean, you can't get through a Nintendo Direct these days without between 1 and 3 farming games, you know?
Yes. I think this one was the one that reminded me of Spectrobes. Do you remember that game?
No.
It was like this weird monster kind of summoning game on the DS, and I think eventually it got like a Wii or something port. My brother was super into it. Like he really resonated with it as a kid. So it just, the art style like reminded me of it, but I haven't looked any further to see if there's any relation between the two.
It's probably totally fine. I mean, I can play a farming adjacent game every now and then, but it's not like my thing, you know?
Yes. It's Marvelous. It is for Marvelous Games. Let me see.
Yeah, I mean, Marvelous, like they publish a lot of like don't they? I think they're the ones that have either Fake Harvest Moon or Story of Seasons. I think they do at least one of those.
They publish Rune Factory, it seems.
Yeah, Rune Factory's. That's all.
Oh, they did Masamura's Rebirth on the Vita. Okay.
Okay.
All sorts of stuff. God Eater 3.
Yeah. So, I bought that Square Enix like farming and combat game, Harvestella.
Okay.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll buy a game like that. I mean, I've actually not played too far into it, but like I played the demo and I'm like, maybe I'm kind of feeling this a little bit, and but I haven't.
Oh, they did Daemon X Machina on the Switch, that game.
Oh, okay.
So there we go. But then we get Donkey Kong. Yeah, Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Yes, I hate this game.
Really? You're a big hater.
I'm a big hater. Mostly because like, man, Donkey Kong Country Super Nintendo trilogy, like, I mean, they are way up there on my favorite platformers of all time. Like, way up there. I love those games. I think just the purity of mechanics and the the quality of the level design. I feel like the levels just have a flow to them that's just masterfully crafted. You know, those games are much more than like, you know, showcases for, what was at the time cutting edge, CGI pre-renders. Like those games are very well made, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I just extremely attached to those. And when Donkey Kong Country Returns was coming out, obviously Retro Studios, I mean, very talented studio. They were doing things like, oh yeah, once we got the project, like we were like, okay, everyone has to, go home and play, the first 3 games and study them and see why they're great. And I'm like, yes. Because at the time, like, I felt like most people just like didn't care about Donkey Kong Country anymore. They're like, oh, those games were just about the graphics. It's like, no. Those games are so freaking good. They're some of the best platformers ever made. And like, when Retro Studios is like saying these things, I'm like, yes, they get it. And then it comes out and I'm like, this plays nothing like the Super Nintendo games. Like, it superficially looks like them, recycles a lot of music from them. But just like the level design and the mechanics do not feel the same at all. And I felt let down in just a tremendous way. So
then, if I may ask, what do you think of Tropical Freeze?
Tropical Freeze, I played in co-op, and
okay,
that kind of inherently makes, playing with a friend is always just fun, and even if a game is a little bad, playing with your friend can be fun, right?
Yes.
And Tropical Freeze, I think, is like an aesthetically perfect game. It looks gorgeous. I love the sort of the Viking enemy designs. I love they've got David Wise involved. It's got this incredible David Wise soundtrack. The mechanics still felt kind of off to me. The level design was better, but I had a good time.
Okay.
And, later I got like the Switch version for, it was on sale for fairly cheap. And I was like, well, so I had like sort of positive feelings about it. And then I tried to play the game on Switch on my own. And I'm like, oh yeah, I hate this. Okay. Like, take out the aspect of playing with your friend. And I'm just like, everything about these controls feels so wrong. Like, I'm usually very open-minded about game series, trying something new, doing something different. It's okay if a game feels a little different from one to the other, but for some reason, these Retro Studios Donkey Kong Country games, I cannot adapt. I cannot adapt. Like, to me, like the roll jump mechanic is like so core to those games, and the trajectory just feels so wrong. Like, I never land where I feel like I'm going to land. Like, I say this kind of jokingly, but like it almost feels like when they like made the mechanics, they like were referencing the original games on a HDTV stretched. And it's like, that's why you like, it feels like you roll jump like twice as far. Like, it feels like you're shot out of a cannon, and just like, I get so angry every time I do that, because I'm like, I am overshooting where I am intending to go. Like, some people say, there's a lot of people who say like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is the greatest platformer ever made. And I wish I was with them, because like I say, it's aesthetically perfect. I want to like that game so much, but the mechanics drive me up a wall. I cannot get used to them.
Huh. That's wild. So I cut my Donkey Kong teeth on Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Color. So that's where I was exposed, and I played that all the time in the back of the van, Like, I think that still captured the mood, at least to my little kid brain. And then
I've not played much of that one, but I will say that the other Game Boy ones, I think they're close enough.
Yeah.
You know?
And then I had 2 on the Game Boy Advance. So like I never played the Super Nintendo ones growing up.
Yeah,
but then when Donkey Kong Country Returns was announced for the Wii, I was pumped. I was like, yeah. This is going to be awesome. This is going to look great.
It was most hyped game for me at the time.
I remember like saving up and buying, because it was kind of around that time where I could save up and buy my own games. I remember doing that for the Prime trilogy, which in hindsight was a great investment.
Yeah.
But I just remember being so pumped for Donkey Kong Country Returns, but then I never beat it. And I remember feeling frustrated with the controls, but not knowing quite why. But then Tropical Freeze comes out, and I'm like, for me, I was in perfect sync with that game as far as movement, vibe, music, the whole deal. It was the first guide that I ever worked on for IGN, and in that sense of was not paid. This was the one I was just like, I don't know how to do this, so I'm just going to do it type thing. And then that led to me working with IGN in a freelance capacity eventually. So like I have a special fondness for Tropical Freeze for a multitude of reasons. But I am partial to that game. So when this popped up,
I wish I was.
It's okay. It's totally fine. And when this popped up, I was like, oh no, we're going backwards. This should just be either a new Donkey Kong Country, which isn't realistic, at least from Retro, because they are doing Prime 4, but or something else like Donkey Kong related. I don't know. Jungle Beat 2. So seeing this pop up, I was like, at least it's here, I guess. I was hoping for the memes that there would be a funky mode added so we could get funky mode slapped on the box again, but that did not happen.
Yeah. Well, I think too, this clearly looks like a step back from Tropical Freeze.
Visually, yes, yeah.
They have not put as much work into updating it as you might think, and I think it also goes to just show kind of in a lot of ways the blandness of the design of that game. Of course, it was designed for the Wii, so they couldn't do as complicated of things as what they did for Tropical Freeze, but also it's apparently being handled by the developers that did the Panzer Dragoon remake.
Yes, I saw this today.
And they did something else that was kind of a mixed reception, and I'm drawing a blank on what it was. So
I don't recall.
Yeah, I can't. I think it might have been on the DF Direct special on this Nintendo Direct where they mentioned the developer. But yeah, this is clearly a pretty big contract for them to be doing that, especially considering some of their previous games. Was it the House of the Dead remake? I think it might have been the House
It's
of the
Forever
Dead
Entertainment is the name, and they did. Yes, I see House of the Dead. I believe.
Oh my gosh, that oof. Yeah, they're pretty lucky to have gotten a Nintendo game.
House of the Dead, yes.
I've not played like a version of House of the Dead remake on a more powerful system, but it ain't good on the Switch. I can tell you that it's not good. It's not good.
They've done Front Mission 1, 2, and 3.
The Front Mission remakes.
I believe.
Interesting.
Yes,
I
think so.
I have the first one on PS5, but I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, so they seem to have done a few of this type of cooking simulator, milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk.
What?
That apparently, according to Wikipedia, is a 2020 psychological horror visual novel developed by a Russian game developer. So they must have ported it somewhere. But that is
well, they're clearly moving up in the world, even if it's not my favorite game.
Yes, I did want to say two things about it specifically. It is cool to see that the 3DS levels are at least being brought forward. I like when that stuff's not lost.
Makes it a definitive version for sure.
Yeah. And then this is, besides Prime 4, which we will get to here at the end, it is the furthest dated Switch game we have from Nintendo of January 16, 2025.
Oh, interesting.
So that is something to just like put a pin in. Like, that's as far out as we know from Nintendo, because everything else that they talk about is out before then. So,
right. Well, I think there were
at least from Nintendo.
Right. Like Metroid Prime 4, I think had,
just
a
2025.
generic 2025. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but with a concrete date, DKC is it.
Right.
So it's interesting.
Interesting.
So they follow up a game that you are not the biggest fan of with what I'm going to assume was a game reveal type deal that you were excited for. I'm going to go out on a limb. This was Dragon Quest III HD 2D, which is a mouthful, but it is that beautiful HD 2D style that Square Enix has developed for games like Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, Triangle Strategy. I don't know if
I'd say, Live Alive.
Yes, Live Alive. Thank you. I knew I was missing one. I think this is my favorite art style, like, that has come up over the last, decade or whatever. It is.
And I think it's the best implementation of it thus far.
Yeah. I wrote in my notes, I said, Octopath Traveler walked so this could run. It looks so good.
And oh man, I'm so glad there's going to be a PS5 version. PS5 physical copy, no less. I have it pre-ordered already because pre-orders went up, I think, the day of the Nintendo Direct. So
I'm torn.
Oh my
so
gosh.
You think PS5 is the way to go? My brain
I think it's going to be. Yeah.
My brain goes this way sometimes where I'm like, well, it has a history on Nintendo, so maybe I should get it on the Switch.
Yeah, I get that. But, like, I feel like, I'm a physical media guy, and a lot of these HD 2D games in the past have only gotten physical copies on Nintendo. Octopath Traveler 1 only got a Nintendo physical copy. Live Alive only got a Nintendo physical copy. Triangle Strategy only got a Nintendo physical copy, and I don't think that even came to any other consoles, although I think it's on Steam.
I don't think Triangle has made the jump to PS5 or Xbox yet, but Octopath Traveler just did to PlayStation, right?
Octopath 1. So
it's so confusing.
It's very confusing because Octopath 1 got an Xbox port, which was gorgeous
for
because
Game
if you had and it was only digital, but if you had an Xbox One X, it's native 4K. I'm not actually positive it's native 4K, but it's approaching it regardless, and 60 frames per second. Very sharp, very smooth. PlayStation didn't get it. Well, then Octopath Traveler 2 comes along. Well, you can get this for Switch, PS4, and PS5, but not Xbox. The system that got the first game, PlayStation never got Octopath 1. And then just a few weeks ago, PlayStation finally got a digital version of Octopath 1, and Xbox got a digital version of Octopath 2. So I did, of course, get Octopath 2. I haven't played it yet. I played a little bit of the demo.
So I haven't played it yet either. But I did this exact thing we're talking about, which is I got Octopath on Switch when it came out, and played like half of it, I think. And then I think I got distracted by something else. But I love it. I truly did love it. I do want to finish it someday. But then Octopath Traveler 2, I was like, dang, I bet this looks really good on PS5. And so that's what I got it on. Was on a Christmas list. And so I have the PS5 version back there. And so that was fine for me in that sense. But now with Dragon Quest, I'm like, well, what do I do? So I've never played a Dragon Quest game. But kind of like a Final Fantasy 6 or something, I call it 3 because that's what it is on the Super Nintendo back there. But for Final Fantasy 6, like everyone's like, this is, the game. And I always hear Dragon Quest 3 is the game. So I'm like, this is the time to jump in with this art style and everything. And so I'm torn on what platform to get it. Yeah,
I mean, it's in my top 3 to 4 of the series for sure. My favorites are 8, 11, 3, and 4, I would say. Most people would put 5 in there, but I really like 5, but it's like falls just behind those, I would say. I think this would probably be a great one to get started with. So this was the first Dragon Quest to introduce a class system. and your party, you kind of just create your party. It's think of, I don't know if you ever played anything like a Etrian Odyssey. It's not that kind of game really, but like you like go to like the party planning tavern, and you like choose from a list of classes, and you make your party. So they're generic characters.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I don't know if the remake could possibly like try to give some personality to these characters or something, but like it's very much like a pretty hardcore old school style of game where you're focused on building your characters and not so much on like character development in terms of story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's character development in terms of RPG gameplay. You're developing your character,
stats and all that.
Yeah. So I think it's a great game. It's one of the best. I've played through the NES version, so I can understand where you're going with that like Nintendo association.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a strong PlayStation association, I would say, with the series as well. And I like I said, I prioritize physical media over better graphics and smoother gameplay, but I sure do like better graphics and smoother gameplay. So if I can get that on PlayStation, because here's the thing, like this HD 2D stuff started on Switch, but I feel like the Switch is not that great at realizing what that art style is trying to do, because I feel like the pixel art kind of gets a little bit lost in the smudge.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And so just everything just looks so much more fluid and more like a retro game when it moves at 60 frames per second, right? Mm. So I think anytime that I could get physical version of HD 2D on PS5, like I am definitely there. Because as much as Square, some of these games have a Nintendo association, almost anything Square Enix can have a PlayStation association as well.
This is true.
So I understand the conflicted feelings, though. I have such thoughts as well.
Yeah, I did that with Castlevania Anniversary Collection. I got it on Switch, but then I bought obviously Symphony of the Night Rondo, the Requiem, only on PlayStation because of presumably using the PSP code. And then I got the advanced ones on PlayStation because I wanted the higher graphics or whatever, and I owned the physical Game Boy ones, so I was just like, I'll get it there. Now I'm regretting not getting the Anniversary Collection on PlayStation so I could have all three of them. So,
well, I mean, just like you talked about that Phoenix Wright 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There is that little bit of a pull of like, well, but I want this thing next to this thing on my shelf. I get what you mean. Yeah.
So Dragon Quest looks phenomenal visually. We've known this has been in the works for a very long time. And is it just me? Is it my unfamiliarity with Dragon Quest? But I feel like the sprites are a little tall. Like they're a little tall people.
Yeah,
it's not Octopath, which is a bit more stout to me, right? More Super Nintendo,
more like Final Fantasy 6-ish. Yeah. Kind of like a halfway point between like Final Fantasy 6 proportions and Chrono Trigger proportions, I would say. Yeah, you're right. They're much higher resolution, much more detailed. I mean, I don't think you would want this style in like NES proportions. Those are just like 16 by 16 sprites, very low color. The Super Famicom remake of Dragon Quest III uses taller sprites than the original NES version.
Okay.
It goes for more of a Dragon Quest VI aesthetic. Now, it's kind of interesting because there's like Super Famicom remakes of 1 and 2 that were made after Dragon Quest V. And so it kind of skews closely to the Dragon Quest V look. And then Dragon Quest VI comes out, and then Dragon Quest III remake looks gorgeous on Super Famicom. But this evolves the style to like, more detail in the sprites. It is maybe a little bit weird at first, but I think it looks good. I think it looks good. It's definitely the highest detail HD2D they've done, and not just in terms of the characters, but also the world. Like I thought the world map looked awesome in this trailer.
I was watching the trailer, here off to the side, and it's just stunning. Like whoever came up with HD2D, give that person a raise. It is so good, and kind of in the vein of what you were just talking about there with the Super Famicom remakes. They also announce Dragon Quest 1 and 2 are getting the HD2D remake out next year, completing this little trilogy.
Leading up to the direct, there was a rumor that Dragon Quest 3 was actually going to be the whole trilogy. And so it turns out that this is a separate game, which I think is fine, because Dragon Quest 3 is a meaty game on its own.
Yeah.
And I would say a fairly significant jump up from 1 and 2, just in terms of, how the game plays and the scale and scope of the game. So it's cool that the whole trilogy is going to be on there, and it is cool that 3 does come first. 1 and 2 are much smaller
Very
games.
Metal Gear.
Yeah. 1 and 2 are much smaller games, much simpler in terms of your party makeup and the flexibility of what your characters can do. So it makes sense that they're releasing them in this order, and I'm glad, because I like you mentioned that we did the compilations video, and I pooped all over the existing Switch versions of Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 in that video. They are garbage. Yuji Horii, bless him, but he is not afraid to. He is not afraid to make a quick buck on some old Dragon Quest stuff. The quality of kind of some of the side games and remakes has been highly variable over the years, I would say. Like I tried the demos of like Dragon Quest Treasures, and there's a new Dragon Quest Monsters game that came out last year, and maybe they're okay if you play them, but they just feel so cheaply made. Like they don't feel good, like moving your character about in the world, and they just got a really cheap feel to them. I mean, I'm sure there's some depth if you get into them, but I was kind of like, ugh, the presentation was really turning me off. Not as badly as the 1, 2, and 3 Android ports on
the mobile ones, yeah.
Switch, man, they are bad. So yes, I see this as like the best righting of a wrong that you could ever have on Switch. Except I'll be buying them on PS5. Sorry.
Yeah, well, you get it. It's just a commercial for PS5 in secret.
Yes. I mean, I will say the when there's a multi-platform choice, the thing that draws me to Switch is the controller choice. I like those Nintendo Switch Online controllers. If I can use the Super Nintendo controller, if I can use one of the SaGA controllers for a game where it would be like appropriate to do so, absolutely. I mean, I played Super Mario RPG with the Super Nintendo controller. Why not?
Yeah. I'm the same way.
Or actually, did I? Now I'm second guessing myself. I can't remember if it actually supported D-pad movement. But I play a lot of games with that Super Nintendo controller regardless. Like when you mentioned the Castlevania collection, I'm like, well, I can play that with one of these Switch Online controllers I love, and I can use the Retro Tink to make it 4K anyway, so who needs the PS4, PS5 version? That's my logic.
I just played Castlevania 1 with it, but before I got my Tink, so I wasn't able to do the whole pre-scale. Right? It's prescale?
Yep,
yeah, prescale and fix it up.
Yep.
But I did play with my Nintendo Switch Online NES controllers to get that authentic feel.
Yep.
It just feels better using, the real thing or the officially stamped thing.
Yeah, with those like emulation collections or like an indie game that, you know, runs at a solid 60 on Switch, it's like, you know, I'll take the controller options on Switch. But when it comes to a game like Dragon Quest 2, 3, 1, and 2 HD 2D, you know, I will in that situation opt for the higher resolution and smoother gameplay because I think for me they'll benefit from it.
Yeah, they'll at least look very good. What do you think gets the next HD 2D? And I'm specifically thinking either Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI. Like those feel like the ones, right?
Maybe, but I could also see either of those getting a remake in the style of the second to last game in this direct. Maybe.
Going down, looking at the list.
Maybe. I people would probably prefer HD 2D, but I would be happy with either approach for those games. Because I'm actually a big fan of what they did with that game, which we'll talk about when we get to it. But yeah, okay. You know, the Live Alive producer did drop like a mention at some point, like, hey, if this does well, I'd really like to make a sequel to Live Alive. So maybe that could be made from the ground up to be a HD 2D thing. Who knows?
That would be cool.
Because, yeah, Live Alive has gotten a remake. Dragon Quest 3, 1, and 2. You know, I would love to see something similar to Live Alive that, you know, never got a Western release. You know, some of Squaresoft's other stuff like Bahamut Lagoon, Treasure Hunter G, stuff like that. I think it'd be really cool. I'd love to see more Dragon Quest. I mean, you know, the most recent remakes we've got of those is the DS, and they go for the Dragon Quest 7 style, which is not my favorite. So yeah. I think all the Dragon Quest games are in need of, you know,
a little touch up.
A little touch up. A little more recent accessibility to them. Yes,
especially those DS prices. Whew.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Next up, everyone's favorite game from the Direct. Funko Fusion.
Everyone's favorite game from the Direct.
The Funko Fusion. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Wow. My goodness. You know, I feel like seeing those characters in that context, like, really drove home for me just how unappealing they are.
I just was like, how did Funko Pops get so big?
I never hear anyone talk about them like that likes them. Like, everyone talks about how much they hate them. Like, where are these people coming from that are buying them?
I don't know. If I go to any of my local game shops, I mean, the Funko Pops it's almost like a GameStop conversion thing. Like, there are more and more Funko Pops in these retro game stores. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Who is buying them? Someone's buying them.
Someone justifies it.
I
haven't met him.
You know what? Maybe like this is like proof of like, you know, multiple dimensions, and like they're all being bought by like visitors from another dimension. They just like spawn inside GameStops and buy them, and like that, you know, the people who buy them only exist in our world within GameStop. You know, that's why we've never met anyone who likes them.
I guess I don't explain. I don't know, but then GameStop would probably not be so empty when you go in there now these days.
No.
It's pretty sad.
It looked like some right garbage, though. I'll say that.
It looked pretty rough. Then Nintendo reminded you once again that Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is coming out soon. I think in July. It's July, right?
Yeah, it's very soon. It's very soon, like within a month, I think. Yeah.
I'm just happy this game is coming up. Like, it's, you know, on a TV. I prefer my Luigi's Mansion games on the TV. I'm quite hopeful that 4 is made someday for Super Switch. I think it could be.
So, yeah.
3 sold really well.
Did it?
My understanding was for a Luigi's Mansion game.
Yeah,
Metroid Dread sold well for a Metroid game. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I think Luigi's Mansion 3 is one of the best games on Switch. It was excellent.
Mm-hmm. That's one of those. I got an eShop card for Christmas one year, and that was the game I got. And now I'm like, dang, now I need the physical version of this game. It's so good. I love Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yeah.
So, a friendly reminder. Then what I think is probably the goofiest game from the Direct. And it was in all caps, but New Duddleson, which looks like it looked Japanese. Just all out.
This is a series that's been around, and I've never played any of the games. It makes me think of what's it called, like Tomodachi Life, and
that's what I thought it was at first.
Miitopia, like it has like the vibe of those games, but I'm pretty sure it's a different developer. And in fact, it said in the Direct that it's a timed console exclusive on the Switch. So this is, I always thought this was a Nintendo property, but it apparently is not.
It just, I don't know. It was the goofiest looking thing, though. I could not believe it. It was very silly. Metal Slug Attack Reloaded. Are you a Metal Slug guy?
I love Metal Slug, and I am super excited for the Metal Slug Tactics game.
Okay, me too.
That has kind of recently resurfaced. There was a demo on Steam.
Okay.
And it looks great. It sounds great. I'm very excited for that. I think that's a perfect way to revive Metal Slug. Like, what a great idea, I think. Metal Slug
is not that.
This is not that. Like,
This is a multiplayer thing? I actually couldn't tell.
I mean, maybe it could have a multiplayer mode, but I'm sure it's mostly a single player thing that's just like a tower defense game. They called it a tower defense game. So
is it
like tower defense? Slug. Like, I don't hate tower defense, but it's like not something I gravitate
enemy
toward.
Bases. Yeah, tower defense with beginner friendly controls.
It looks like it uses the sprites from the original Neo Geo games.
Yeah, it was like not the Metal Slug I thought was going to appear.
No. I can't say it interests. I mean, it seems like, you know, the fact that it was kind of like a shadow drop thing, kind of makes me think it's a very small scale game. So probably something that's not likely to get like a physical copy. Like, I don't know how meaty of a game it is. If it did get a physical copy, I probably couldn't resist. So I'd give it a chance.
Can't resist the allure of Metal Slug physical.
Metal Slug physical. I need it. But yeah, I would say I'm not paying attention until or if that happens.
Okay, gotcha. Darkest Dungeon 2 making the jump to Switch with the day. I didn't play the first one, but I hear good things.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it at all, but the art style I thought was totally awesome in this trailer.
I was surprised it looked this good on a Switch.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I know that Nintendo is pretty strict about you know, this stuff having to actually be captured on a Switch or Switch dev kit for these presentations. Although, you know, Digital Foundry pointed out some skepticism about the second to last one. So we'll see. But yeah, it did look really good. It looked like it played great on Switch. I guess it's some sort of like roguelike kind of thing, which is like not normally a go-to genre, but it's something I've becoming more and more open to, especially after having played how am I drawing a blank on the name? Returnal.
Yes, Returnal is one of those that's it gets your hooks. It gets its hooks in you pretty good.
It strikes the right balance of like design and randomization that really worked for me. So it's kind of eased me into being a little bit more interested in that kind of thing. So, you know,
Hades was the game for me. And, but similar to what we were talking about with Dragon Quest, Hades did not click for me on Nintendo Switch. I had beaten Hades once and then was like, well, what's the point of keep going here? Like, I'm not getting the loop here. And then for some reason I got it on PS5. I truly don't know. It was physical. Yeah. It was cheap. I'm like, oh, I'll get this. And then playing that game at 60 frames per second in 4K
is the Switch version really not 60?
It seems.
So I mean, I don't
remember.
The
they could have patched it, but my understanding, like what I was like, oh, this is not. I'm not feeling great.
Yeah, I'm just surprised because like that's It strikes me as a game that like they would definitely want.
Maybe it does
target 60 on all systems, but it felt wrong. I get it.
It did feel wrong, and it definitely looked wrong. I mean,
yeah,
it was not. There's a game later that looks pretty rough as well on Switch. That involves maybe a cat or something. But Hades on PS5, that game was like that turned into that addictive thing for me. And the only reason I stopped is I'm one trophy away from the platinum, and it's just pure RNG, and you have to get down to the third world and hopefully meet a character, and then hopefully that character decides to progress the conversation of their relationship forward. And I had like 3 more layers of that conversation to get through, and I was like, I'm not going to keep doing this. So hopefully Hades 2 doesn't have that type of RNG, at least trophy related, but I digress. Then we get to Nintendo Switch Online. They got to have one of these in the middle. And there's a couple of layers here to this. First of all, just the setup of Legend of Zelda Link to the Past, 4 Swords for Game Boy Advance, and then Zero Mission, like finally. Also just foreshadow some stuff later in the Direct. But also it was kind of like, here's our Zelda and Metroid moments. Like they kind of like fake you out a little bit. And but also tease you a smidge. I'm happy those are there. And what's cool about 4 Swords is you can play online together with your friends. So it makes playing that game the intended way much, much easier than digging out a game key.
That's true. I didn't really think that through, but that's pretty interesting.
Yes. So I'm happy to see all that. Side tangent, I really wish, I don't think it's a thing, but I really wish they would figure out a way to make it work with Fusion and Metroid Prime Remastered, where you could get the Fusion Link connection stuff.
Oh,
that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, free idea, Nintendo and Retro. But then they announce Nintendo 64, Nintendo Switch Online, mature version. With Turok and Perfect Dark.
Separate app. Keep the kids away.
That I just learned that the other day when I was on the Nintendo website, and it was there, and it's like free download. I was like, oh, it's a completely separate app.
I mean, I don't even have access to this because I've never gotten the expansion pass.
Okay,
because I mean, I've got a million other ways to play these games.
Sure.
So
I have that expansion pass because when it was launching, you could get the Animal Crossing DLC, and my wife has a Switch and she loves Animal Crossing, so I was like, well, this makes some sense there. And then I've expanded that to give it access to my father-in-law and sister-in-law who have they share a Switch at their house, and then my sister-in-law plays like the N64 stuff all the time. And so when I consider the family plan aspect of it,
that makes sense.
It's like, oh, this just, I get all the Mario Kart tracks and whatever, I can play N64 stuff whenever. So it makes sense there, but you're absolutely right. If you have this stuff, either the real physical versions or like rare replay in the sense of Perfect Dark or a flash cart, like there's a million ways. Limited Run just put Turok out. Like you can play all this stuff any other way. So, but it was very funny to see mature 17 plus N64.
I saw a picture online of the mature 17 plus icon with the N64 controller on it, and they like mosaicked the middle handle on the N64 controller.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
Oh man,
you don't even think mature with the N64. That's what makes it even funnier. I remember, I think it was Manhunt or something, like seeing that box. I think it's Manhunt.
Is like Manhunt the local on N64? I feel like it's not.
I feel like there's some Rockstar rated. The list for rated MN64 games cannot be that long.
Probably not that long. I mean, I remember I remember buying Conker's Bad Fur Day at Best Buy when I was like maybe like 4 or 5 months from turning 17. And like back then they like didn't actually like really enforce like, you have to be this age to buy
the
game. But like I was like kind of nervous, and like I think some stores like enforced it a little bit, but I didn't see the game out on the shelf. Maybe they didn't put it out on the shelf, since it's Conker's Bad Fur Day. I don't know. But like I asked the guy, like, hey, do you have, I don't see Conker's Bad Fur Day on the shelf. Do you have any in the back? And he went in the back and he got one out for me. And he was like, before he handed it to me, he's like, now, wait a second. How old are you? And I'm like, I'll be 17 in August. And he's like, they won't say anything at the counter. Go for it.
Nice. I remember buying my first rated M games. They were, I went on a God of War frenzy. Ghost of Sparta, Chains of Olympus, God of War 2. Like, I just bought a bunch of God of War. But also, I bought Animal Crossing City Folk. So that was my checkout experience. I was like, I'll take these, please.
I'm pretty sure I did that, too. I think I bought, like, Super Princess Peach and some Imrea game at the same time. Or, like, some Kirby game. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I definitely did something like that before. My first, funny enough, I mean, it's the games we're talking about. I'm pretty sure... I'm positive. Perfect Dark was my first Imrea game because that I'm pretty positive that came out before Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Maybe.
Fairly
I'm not sure, but I believe
fairly
it. Sounds
certain
about right.
Conker came.
I think Conker was last. I really do because I just did for my other show, Chapter Select. We did a Banjo-Kazooie season. That was season 3, but we ended the season by playing Conker just for fun. And we had never played Conker, so we played on the Xbox. And I can't tell you how many times I nearly gave up and threw the controller away at the final boss. Seriously, I was like, I don't believe anyone's beaten this game. It's not possible. Gosh, what a final boss. Conker's a very interesting game. Yes, with a very interesting history.
Yes. Oh, it's well, and
the Game Boy game.
Well, hey, I'll give you a little spoiler for my next episode, which will hopefully come out by the end of next week, maybe.
Scoop.
I'm looking at Black Cart Game Boy games and comparing the monochrome modes, the Super Game Boy modes, and the Game Boy Color modes, because I feel like most people look at those and they're like, oh, they're Game Boy Color games. Game Boy Color is the better system. So, like, that's just the definitive version. But actually, I think in a surprising number of cases, I think the graphics kind of look a little cleaner in the monochrome modes, or there's like some weird sort of compromises in the way that they section off like the color regions on the Game Boy Color. Well, this blew my mind. I can't believe I never knew this. I didn't actually own Conker Pocket Tales until just a couple of years ago, but I as a big fan of the developer Rare, I just feel like I should have known this somehow. It's like almost a completely different game on the original Game Boy.
Really?
Blew my mind. It
Game Boy to Game Boy Color, completely different.
Almost completely different. Like the event structure is, as far as I could tell, almost the same, but the level layout is different. The way the game operates is different. Like the way the camera just like scrolls is completely different. Like the graphics are like some reused tiles and sprites between versions, but it's almost it is shockingly different. It is shockingly different. Like the broad strokes are the same, but the layout and visuals and puzzles, it's a different game. It's a different game.
That's crazy.
And
that's all
really
on one
crazy.
Cartridge, right? That's the black cart.
Yeah.
What's going on there, man?
Blew my, yeah. So Conker, the depth of history on Conker goes even deeper.
Wild. Phantom Brave: The Lost Hero. This was something I have no idea about. I'm completely unfamiliar. Are you familiar with this?
Well, I did some digging, and I didn't realize that Phantom Brave, like this is like Phantom Brave 2. So like there's like the Disgaea series, which is like a strategy series, and like Phantom Brave, I think it's like, I don't know if it's like a spin-off or it's like I think it's kind of thing like, you know how like Atlas has Shin Megami Tensei and they've got Persona, and like
Persona's the spin-off.
Yeah, it's the spin-off, but it's like it's also like a separate thing because like in Japan they've never given Persona the Shin Megami Tensei label.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like that. It's always been separate in Japan, is my understanding, and they started separating them with Persona 4 Golden on the Vita, where they just call it Persona. Nonetheless, like they share like the demon designs and the spell names and item names and stuff like that. It's kind of similar to how like some Square Enix games use Final Fantasy. How they use Final Fantasy names in games that aren't Final Fantasy, you know. I believe that's a thing that has happened on occasion in the world of Square Enix. So I think this is like kind of a similar thing. Maybe I've not actually played any of these games. I mean, they kind of intimidate me because I think like you like level up to like level 9,999 or something like that. I mean, it gets really crazy, I think, with the numbers and levels. And I'm like, that sounds like too much. But there's so yeah, I guess there wasn't another Phantom Brave game to my knowledge now that I see. I thought like the gameplay seemed interesting and the art style was appealing, but it ran like garbage on the Switch, it looked like.
Yeah. Oh well.
So I am interested, but I'll be looking for a PS4 version.
Yeah, somewhere else. It was just another one of those commercial for PlayStation inside the Direct.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of commercial for PlayStation inside the Direct. It's free. It's finally free. Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is free from its prison.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, this is the megaton of the show. For me, like I'm not a fighting game guy, really.
Neither am I. I'm super casual with it. Every time a Mortal Kombat comes out, I'm like, that looks awesome. And then me and my wife play like 5 rounds.
Yeah, well, yeah, the only like major fighting franchise that I've ever really gotten into is Soul Calibur. I really like Soul Calibur. And this year, actually, I have been getting into Mortal Kombat. Like, some friends of mine convinced me to start streaming the Mortal Kombat games, beginning with Mortal Kombat 9. Or it's just called Mortal Kombat, but it's
that one on
the
PS3
one that's on
that
PS3, Xbox 360. So I've played 9 and 10 so far, and I think later this year we scheduled 11. And I actually, especially 9, like in terms of gameplay, I actually like kind of clicked with it a lot more than I thought I would.
Is 9 was the one where Kratos was a DLC character, right?
Yes, if the PS3 version only, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've got like the complete edition that comes with that stuff, but yeah, so like I kind of gotten into that. It's kind of a reboot game because like it like Raiden does something that like causes time to reset back to the time of Mortal Kombat 1, and my understanding is I'm expecting like at least 2 more resets with the upcoming games, but anyway, yeah, like the Capcom, like Street Fighter 2, absolute phenomenon for like most people in the gaming world, especially when it came out. But like, I've just never, the Capcom style of fighting game has just never clicked with me. So this is a big deal for some people. If they get the emulation right, if they get the input lag right, I think it's very important. The one game on here that would be of interest to me personally might be The Punisher, because that's a brawler and it is a co-op brawler. I don't really know a lot about. I don't even know really anything about the Punisher character. Personally,
he's kind of like in the Batman, or not Batman. What am I saying? Spider-Man kind of ethos and Daredevil and stuff. He think like Daredevil, but he kills. It's kind of the energy. There's more to it, but that's like the gist. It's like, what if we made him kill people?
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Now, if I'm remembering right, and I don't know if this is something you know about, it's kind of infamous. One of these Marvel versus Capcom games has like a version on PS1 that's considered really bad, and then the Saturn version's like almost arcade perfect.
I am not familiar, no.
Yeah, there's one where like the Juggernaut has like really bad animation on PS1, or like almost no animation, or I forget, but like one of these games has the Juggernaut in it, and he takes up like most of the screen. It's a crazy looking sprite. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy for the people who are into Capcom fighting games, which I think is most people, just not me. But yeah, this is a big deal. Apparently, I mean, some people were saying like this could never happen, and here it is.
It's one of those licensing games that just seems like it would be stuck in this forever. I'm happy. Like, this is something I want to pick up purely because I feel like it will be delisted again someday.
That's true. I mean, I probably should get it just because, like, who knows? You know, I got into Mortal Kombat this year. Maybe 10 years from now will finally be my year for Capcom, and I won't be able to buy this anymore. So maybe I should just get it.
I mean, the PS2 and PS3 version are like regularly over $200 when I see them in a shop. So I'm just happy that it is accessible to an audience that would want to play it. The greatest thing about this particular version of these games, though, is the Switch box art, which I will try to find really good art for the show notes, like higher res than what I found here from Play Asia. But they just put the logo right over Cyclops and Ryu's face, like just smack dab in the middle. So you just see their chests, like they're from their neck down.
Oh,
like
no. Oh, that's lousy.
So that's the Switch box. I believe the PS4 one is more like correctly portioned and layout. Like they just gotta move it down. Like clearly just move the logo down. Don't cover up your key fighters, your key characters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I probably would get the Switch version in this case, assuming that the input lag comparable across versions, just because like this strikes me as a game that I would want to play with one of those Switch Online controllers.
Yeah. I agree with you in that sense, but I think
I'm sure there's some people rolling their eyes thinking like, no, you got to play with an arcade stick. But I am not an arcade stick guy. I do not like arcade sticks.
I just have the 8-bit one, and I just have that for my Mister. And I mean, it would work.
I'm a D-pad man.
I just, for like a game of Pac-Man, like I think the 8-bit, like it works.
Yeah, it's fun for a little bit, but like I don't know, joysticks have always like really wore out my wrist, and I certainly can't play like platformers with them.
No, I want nothing to do with that. So I'm glad that's free. It's finally free from the prison of whatever marketing deals it's been stuck in forever. So, and then it's the end of Switch life. It's time. We need another Mario Party game. Super Mario Party Jamboree, which is a pretty good name, I think.
Yeah. Well, the name actually... See, I don't really know what to expect of this, because... So, I stopped buying Mario Party games after 6 on the GameCube. I bought them...
Probably not a bad spot to stop.
Yeah. I mean, I bought them year after year. Even though, like multiplayer gaming was not a big thing for me in college. And so when the GameCube years were kind of my college years. And I like kept buying these Mario Party games like out of habit. And I'm like, wait, like Mario Party 5, I played like once with my cousin and that was it.
Why am I buying these?
Why am I buying these?
Yeah.
Like, I probably played Mario Party 6 like once, and I'm like, stop. I'm not buying these anymore. But like Mario Party 1 and 2 were huge for, me and my friends in high school. Like we played 1 and 2 all the time. 3 a little less, but enough to make it worth it, especially considering that game's very expensive now. I mean, like a lot of Mario Party games are actually pretty expensive, unfortunately. I sold my GameCube ones at some point, and I wish I hadn't, because they are expensive now. Anyway, so I say all this to say the previous Mario Party was Mario Party Superstars, and that was the first one I bought since Mario Party 6. And I loved it. Now
that's the one that takes a bunch of stuff from the old ones, right?
It's kind of it really goes for the nostalgia play. The main menu area is modeled straight after Mario Party 1. It's even got like the weird, how everyone was always officially, I think it's a rumor. I don't think it's necessarily totally true, although I think there was maybe a reference to something in like an Iwata Asks or something, but like people were always saying that there was this Miyamoto mandate that like you can't create like new characters or have like toads that don't just look like Toads. In games, and that's why like the Paper Mario games stopped having like unique characters that like Thousand Year Door has.
I was gonna say, was that mandate not in effect in Thousand Year Door? Because there are toads out the wazoo in that game
that are unique. Unique toads, yeah, and the party members that are very different. They're not just like a Goomba. There's some things that have never existed before in the cast of that game and Paper Mario before, like having this like Goomba or Koopa Troopa that's like going around with you, like that kind of stuff stopped happening in Paper Mario.
Yes, unfortunately.
But yeah, so like there were some weird toads in like the options menu and the store and stuff like that. In Mario Party 1. Oh, you don't have that. I'm thinking about it. I think I'm misremembering. Did they replace those? They may have replaced those toads with other characters now that I think about it. Yeah, they might. Those might actually be different. I think they might have like replaced them with like a Shy Guy and Kamek or something. Maybe. Yeah, now, I'm thinking like, they even brought back the toads, but now I'm thinking, I think I misremembered. Regardless, though, they really go hard for that nostalgia look. They have like all the music from like Mario Party 1 and stuff like that. And then like the boards all come from Mario Party 1, 2, and 3. It's like a, N64 era, which is what I'm all about. Although the mini games come from a wider array. The mini games come from 1 through 9 or 10, I think. But they're good. Like it's really good. Unfortunately, my local friends, Mario Party makes them too mad. So I rarely get takers to play it, but it's really well done. I was very impressed. The nostalgia play worked for me. This I'm a little less sure about. They did mention that there's going to be some throwback levels.
Yes. Specifically, I think there were at least 2 they mentioned. One from the first game, but the Western Land from Mario Party 2. So everyone get together for a Hootenanny.
I mean that might be my favorite Mario Party level. Come to think of it, mostly because like I always like they didn't do this for Super Mario or Mario Party Superstars, but in Mario Party 2, they dress up in like different costumes.
Yeah. Because it was all about movies or something. Like each thing was a movie set.
Yeah, something like that. So like I just thought the cowboy outfits were really cool.
Cowboy Mario's the best. He's on the box.
He's on the box. I have that box.
You're rich. You're a rich man.
Well, no. I mean, I'm not rich because I bought it expensive. I mean, I bought that game when it was new. So,
I'm saying no. I'm saying because you have it in the collection. Yes, you have assets.
I actually don't know what the CIB price is for that. And 3 is the one that I always think of as being expensive because that one I don't think ever was cheap.
No,
but regardless, this new one, the previous game was called Super Mario Party. So the fact that they call this Super Mario Party Jamboree kind of makes me think that they aren't going as much for that, retro throwback, which is less appealing to me. It appears to be each player uses a single Joy-Con in the horizontal configuration, or maybe certain mini games might require you to hold it vertically for, some sort of gyro controls or something. So I'm a little bit skeptical of this one because I feel like it's possibly going to go in directions of, I don't inherently have like a revulsion towards motion controls or anything like that, because like I actually think the Wii is highly underrated. I think that was actually a great generation of Nintendo. Some of the waggle stuff was dumb, yes, but I think there are examples of it having been done quite well on the Wii, especially when it comes to like pointer controls and stuff. This one's a wait and see for me. They brought me back with Mario Party Superstars, making it kind of a quasi compilation of sorts. The thing that appeals to me about this though is it seems like Kamek hosts the games, and Kamek is one of my favorite Mario characters. I dressed up as Kamek the year that Yoshi's Island came out for Halloween.
That's awesome. Is there pictures of that somewhere?
I have tried to find pictures of it and failed, but like I got like this like long blue like wizard robe and just a blue winter hat, but I just like I pulled it up really high to be a little pointier, and I got like fake glasses with like a big nose on it, like like that, and like I kind of held the bottom of the nose like in my upper lip to make it more like a Koopa Troopa beak.
I love it.
And I was very happy that the first character to have a line in the trailer for the reveal trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie and in the game and the movie itself was Kamek. Like, I feel like, yes, Kamek's getting his due. Like, I've never fully forgiven Nintendo for kicking Kamek out of Super Mario Kart or Mario Kart 64 and putting Donkey Kong in his place, because in the early magazine screenshots, it was Kamek instead of Donkey Kong.
Oh,
and
I never knew
I was
that.
like, yes, Kamek. I freaking love Kamek. And so I feel like, they're starting to make it up. Lately.
Bring them back.
But I still don't know if this is a game for me.
I don't know either. I haven't bought a Mario Party game in a very long time, and mostly because my friends buy it, and then I just play their copy, because I'm not playing it by myself.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Abby and I actually the other night, maybe a month or two ago, we put Eloise down to bed, and then we came out here and we booted up NSO and played Mario Party 2.
Oh, okay.
For the first time in a long time, and I used the Tink with those profiles to like scale it all nice and crisp and beautiful. So that was great, and we quickly remembered how hard the computer is on normal, and we teamed up against Donkey Kong, but he still prevailed. But it was really fun. So Mario Party is like super casual in my house.
Yeah, Mario Party 1 and 2 back in the day when me and one of my friends played it, we always made the AI characters. Like, one time, Mario and Donkey Kong like absolutely crushed us as the AI characters, and we were so mad. And we like immediately went and beat them up in Smash Brothers afterward.
Nice.
And then ever since that point, it became a tradition that every time we played Mario Party, the AI had to be Mario and Donkey Kong. And no matter how good or bad they did, we immediately went and beat them up in Smash Brothers afterward.
I love that. That's a great tradition. That's awesome. So, and Mario Party Jamboree, really quick, it's out later this year again. It's one of those later this year, October 17th. Yeah. So
I mean that's Nintendo's MO these days. Like, you don't announce stuff for the next year generally.
Generally looks at Metroid Prime. That was a different game. And clearly the case. All right. And then next is, I think, the biggest surprise of the show.
Absolutely.
I had predicted beforehand with my buddy, every year we do E3 predictions. And I thought, and I think some other people thought this too, I don't know, I'm not on social media, so I don't know what the pulse was kind of going into it. But I had a feeling that the Oracle games were going to get a remake in that Link's Awakening art style.
Oh, okay. That hadn't crossed my mind as a possibility, but yeah.
So I thought this would just kind of follow the trend, a few trends. After Breath of the Wild was Link's Awakening, so like a 3D to a 2D. It would be a remake, and it would do the Zelda thing, especially on handhelds, of taking the game and reusing the assets to make another one. Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes. Like, this made sense to me. So this pops up, and I'm like, ooh, maybe this is the Oracle games. But it's that art style from Link's Awakening on Switch, which is gorgeous, I think. And then all of a sudden, Link falls into a dark portal, shoots an arrow, Zelda's crystal cracks. And we're finally doing it. We're finally playing as Princess Zelda.
Legend of Zelda!
The Legend of Zelda. Finally, in quotes. I mean, there's the Wand of Gameleon, or whatever it is on the Gamelon on the CDI. And if you want to count spin-offs, Hyrule Warriors, you can also play as her. And Smash Brothers and things like that. But a mainline Zelda
Honest
game.
To goodness
first
Zelda.
Time. Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely wild.
Echoes of Wisdom. And the craziest part of it all, it's out in 3 months.
That's nuts.
What?
And no one saw this coming. Like, there was like no leaks, no rumors. Like, this, not that crossed my path. Like,
Same.
This
I could not
totally floored
believe
me.
it.
Totally floored me.
Please go ahead.
I mean, yeah. This, however, is the game that I am worried about performance on the current Switch, because Link's Awakening has issues. I don't know how you feel.
It has issues. It does. It's not, but maybe the last 6 years or however long it's been, we've been able to iron it out. Maybe.
So I'm actually thinking about. See, I when Tears of the Kingdom came out, I could not resist getting the.
Oh, see, yeah,
the
same
the
problem,
OLED.
dude.
I could not. Like, I was like, I got a Switch at launch, and I'm like, look, I mostly play docked. I don't need the OLED really. I'm just going to wait for Switch 2, and then if for some reason Switch 2 doesn't have backwards compatibility, or the backwards compatibility is bad, then maybe I'll get a Switch OLED for posterity. Because I did the same thing when 3DS came out. I did not like how DS games looked or played on the 3DS. So I shortly after 3DS launch, I bought a DSi XL. Just, to have a good system for posterity for playing DS games on. So that was my thought. But then that Tears of the Kingdom OLED comes about, and I'm like, I do need it.
Yep. Same. And now we face the same problem with the Switch Lite, which is even less something I need, because I only play docked. I even joked, so my daughter's birthday is the 27th, and she'll be 2. So she's too young to play any of this. Yeah. But I said to my wife, I'm like, wow, we've got Eloise's birthday gift right here. She'll get a Switch Lite and Echoes of Wisdom, and I'll leave them in a glass box until her little grubby hands know how to handle it. Because my goodness, they did the thing. It's just beautiful. A pure gold Switch Lite with the Triforce, around. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. I can resist that though. I don't
it
need
being a Switch Lite makes it slightly resistible.
Yes,
but it is.
But
beautiful.
it does look nice.
And I would love the thing. I think you have the same 3DS. You do, actually.
The Majora's Mask.
Yes, and that's the problem. I feel like it would match.
Well, it started. The sides of my Majora's Mask one started flaking off a bit, like the way that gold is like
wrapped on it,
rusted on it. Like it just starts flaking off, and the top is still fine. But I ended up, Nintendo's online store used to sell replacement backplates, and some of them were like for some of the collector's editions. Unfortunately, Majora's Mask was not one of them. The Metroid one, the Metroid Samus Returns was one, which was a kind of a gold color, but I was like, it's going to be a different gold color though, so it'll look weird.
It'll clash.
And also it'll probably flake off just like the Majora's Mask one did. So I end up going for the Super Nintendo one. So I've got like this like weird dual like,
and you have like the USB-C cutout on the back for your capture and.
Oh yeah, well it's micro USB, but yeah, it's on the top. It's on the top, yeah. So,
okay, see, you just got a crazy 3DS setup.
Yeah, but regardless, I am pondering, since I've got that OLED, and I don't really want to. I know that the Mariko switches and the OLED like have greater overclocking capabilities when they're hacked, but I still don't really want to I don't really want to hack the OLED one. I want to keep it stock ideally.
Yeah.
But I am contemplating hacking and overclocking the launch switch.
Yes.
For this game specifically, because I'd like to do some research into whether that actually fixes Link's Awakening problem. Now my understanding is that the problem with Link's Awakening is like I think it's a memory bandwidth issue, because what happens is the game targets 60 frames per second, and during general play maintains it, except every time you go between locations, like the game just hard drops to 30 frames per second for a couple of seconds, and then it hard jumps to 60, and it's like I can handle frame rate drops. I'm not the pickiest person in the world about that, but the way that it manifests in that game in particular is especially infuriating.
So I'm watching the trailer and I'm wondering, so Link's Awakening, obviously a remake, and they adhered to that style of screen transitions. But I'm looking at this gameplay for Echoes of Wisdom, and it doesn't seem to have screen transitions. So maybe it's open in that sense. I'm not sure. We'll obviously find out in 3 months.
Yeah, I mean,
I would hope that they've been able to polish it out, though. Clearly the same assets and engine and style and things. So maybe they've been able to tweak it.
I mean, some of the things that were said about the development of Tears of the Kingdom is that, even though it looks so similar and plays so similar, aside from the addition of the Ultra Hand, of course, apparently the engine is radically different. Like almost not at all the same. Like they apparently almost rewrote everything. So
that makes some sense, because it was originally a Wii U game. So they probably were like, get rid of the Wii U cruft here. Yeah,
and is this Grezzo like Link's? I think Grezzo was the developer of Link's Awakening. They've never done like a original Zelda game, so they've only done remakes. So where is this being developed? Like the as much as it looks like Link's Awakening, what is actually shared by it in terms of the underpinnings of the engine, in terms of development staff? Who knows? It could have a completely different, background there. So, but I am still nervous. I'm still nervous about the performance of this game more so than any other game. And like, this is a game that I'm not waiting for Switch 2 to play this. Like, I have to play this right away. It looks, I mean, let's get off of the performance concerns. I mean, the game looks incredible. I especially love how Zelda finally gets her own game, and she's not just Link, They came up with a completely new gameplay system for her, and I think that's awesome.
Initially, I was upset with this. Not in the radical, loud online person, but I was just like, this just seems like overly complicated. Like, just let me hit a moblin, not place a rock. For the listener, if you haven't seen the trailer or understand it, this is Zelda has this like tri-wand staff thing and can summon objects, echoes they call them. Tri is actually a wizard or a fairy that you meet. So Tri, you're in a Zelda game.
I'm finally in a Zelda game. Yeah.
You've made it. And so Zelda can basically copy any item, with quotes around that, any item in the environment, and then duplicate it, replicate it in the world, and use that to solve puzzles or combat. And so she uses this to fight and do things. And I was like, well, this just seems like I gotta like drop a rock to like stun a mob. It just seemed overly complicated. But as I've thought about it more and more, this game is like comes full circle with what they were doing with Breath of the Wild, which was taking the ideas and freedom of the Legend of Zelda on NES and bringing that into a 3D environment to reinvent 3D Zelda. Now, then Tears of the Kingdom comes out and basically does Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts, but in a Zelda environment. And as someone playing Tears of the Kingdom for the first time right now, that UI popped up to pick anything, and I went, oh my gosh, they just made 2D Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Now, you're not building a car or whatever, but you're summoning and connecting objects from all over the world. And now you get to use that style of puzzle solving and combat, fusing items and all that stuff. Like, what happens if I put this mushroom with a spear? Well, you get this bouncy spear thing. And putting it in 2D Zelda. Like, we've gone full circle from 2D to 3D, reinvent, and now back to 2D. And I'm now thrilled with this. I'm so happy she has her own style of combat and mechanics. Like, it's a wholly unique system, and I can't wait to dig into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very much in the spirit of Tears of the Kingdom, I would say, in the sense that Tears of the Kingdom is a very, what people would call a systems-driven game. And, it's what's so impressive about it is that, your typical AAA developer who's making, big open world games on, PS5 and Xbox Series X and Steam, like, remember back to the days of stuff like Red Faction on the PS2? Like, what happened to like being able to like literally change and blow up the environment and do all these crazy physics driven things? Like, it in a lot of ways, as games have progressed, they have become more fixed and locked down in what they allow you to do. They become flashier looking, but the underpinnings are simpler. And then you have, Nintendo do something like Breath of the Wild on the Switch, which is very, very ambitious in its approach. And I thought like, oh, in 3 years, every game is going to be just like Breath of the Wild. And guess what? It hasn't happened because like other developers are afraid of it. Like, there have been games that have come out, like there was that one weird Ubisoft, like Greek mythology game. Yes. They're like, oh, this is like Breath of the Wild. Very superficially like Breath of the Wild. It looks like Breath of the Wild, but it's not Breath of the Wild. It doesn't play like Breath of the Wild. Like, I guess hang gliders and stuff have become kind of popular in games, but like for the most part, the structure and ambition in terms of, what you can do with Breath of the Wild hasn't really become that much of a broader gaming thing because it's so ambitious, and they did that on such weak hardware comparatively. And then they do Tears of the Kingdom and go even further with just the insanity of what you can do in this world.
Right.
And then they have that sort of systems driven gameplay kind of brought into the classic style of Zelda perspective and gameplay. And I just think that's incredible. I mean, you look at, you have a moblin to summon, or you have a fish enemy to summon. There's like one shot of where she's like underwater and kind of that like side view, like 2D, Link's Awakening perspective. And like, I think she like sends out like another fish to like attack another fish or something. I forget exactly what it was, but like, every object, every enemy in the game is going to have like these particular parameters assigned to them in terms of how they behave and react to each other. And so you are essentially, this agent of chaos dropped into this world, and you can do whatever you want with it. I mean, just such a beautiful playground kind of concept of, I love it. And like I said, like dropping a Zelda game that no one saw coming 2/3 of the way into the presentation, well before it's over, and having it do just these fresh new things that we've not seen in this style of Zelda before. Man, like I was blown away. I'm so excited, and I just hope the frame rate's not too bad.
I hope so. I'm the same. I'm absolutely thrilled. And it is that it's out in 3 months that I just cannot keep getting over. Like I feel like I've picked the perfect time to play Tears of the Kingdom, because I'll finish that up eventually, and then I'll be able to go right into this 2D Zelda.
Yep.
And it seems to, I saw a picture perusing the internet a little bit. This seems to be, if the internet sleuths are correct, set in the Link to the Past overworld, not the Link's Awakening one.
It looks very similar, at least, for sure. Yeah.
Structure, I mean, asset-wise, yeah, it looks the same art style.
Right, but like positioning seems broadly similar.
Yeah. So I'm curious, just from a exploration perspective, what that'll be like. I am so eager to see dungeons in this game. I would love to see this type of puzzle-solving freedom in a dungeon setting and what that does to that. So it's gonna be so cool.
Yeah, because like Link Between Worlds, like after Skyward Sword, like I think Eiji Aonuma kind of acknowledged that, we've kind of let Zelda become too mired down in its rigidity.
Well, it's like what you were kind of just talking about before. It's so locked down. Like Zelda is, go here, collect 3 things, unlock more temples, get build the sword, beat the boss.
Yeah, and so ultimately they made Breath of the Wild, but kind of after he already had said these things, kind of as an interim between Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, we get A Link Between Worlds, which kind of has this halfway point compromise in terms of the flexibility versus the familiarity, where you have this system where you rent the dungeon items, and that lets you choose which dungeon you can go to. So they let you have a little more freedom with your exploration and what you do first, what you do next. Like, many, many times. In fact, I would say most of the times I played through Link to the Past, I did some of the Dark World dungeons in a different order. Because I forget what it was. I think it was like the dungeon with the moth boss. I think it's the one in the Lost Woods. I always waited to do that one until I got some other item, if I recall correctly. It's been a little while since I played through the whole game, but
yeah.
So you had that flexibility in a lot of the older games, so this was an element to bring that back and go even further. However, because you did have to have this dungeon item, XYZ item, to get into XYZ dungeon and complete XYZ dungeon, there were still like expected solutions to problems. So I think this is going to be the first time that we've seen this overhead perspective Zelda game where you are going to truly have solutions that you can invent yourself. We
and that's exciting.
That halfway point with a Link Between Worlds, but like this is really bringing some Tears of the Kingdom style flexibility. You come up with the solutions.
Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled. This is for me the most exciting thing from the Direct, but there's still.
I agree, and yet there was so much else of this was just. It was a banger.
It was a banger. What's not a banger was just another Just Dance video game.
Yeah. Well,
So
but you know what? Like the now that we're at the end of Switch's life, all I want to know is how many more years of Just Dance does the Switch 1 have? Like that's always the question for the ages. Like it's always enjoyable year after year to see what dead system still gets Just Dance.
Yeah.
That's the most entertainment I get out of Just Dance anyway.
Same. Absolutely the same. Apparently, Abby, she's a middle school teacher. Apparently, a thing that the students do with like free time or whatever, like when they have flexibility in the classroom, is they just pull up YouTube videos of Just Dance, like songs, and then just dance to them. Like they don't even gamify.
You don't even need the game.
Exactly.
You don't even need the system. You just pretend that you're playing it. That's actually really funny. I mean, Corey's kids like it. Like I know that he's like he set up his like old Xbox One VCR unit to like for his kids to play Just Dance on, you know. So
cool. Next up, they showed off probably the surprise from the PlayStation State of Play, which was Lego Horizon or Horizon Lego, whatever it is, running on Switch. The more I think about this game, the more I'm cool with it. I don't think I'll pick it up, but right away at least. But if I was a PlayStation fan and I had a kid who I wanted to share PlayStation stuff with, this is a cool way to share this IP with kids and play with it. It's a unique way to introduce kids at an earlier age to the Sony Pony stable. Saddle up. I think it's cute.
It's interesting. Like this caught me totally off guard on the State of Play because I was like, "What?" Like
this is not Horizon the Horizon game I thought.
Horizon and Lego. Like who ever dreamed up that combination? Like that's just so strange and surprising. But you know what? Like I think in some ways this kind of is almost an indictment of the current state of Sony properties. Because they have gotten so into the, mature, sad dad open world, which, don't get me wrong, that stuff is good every now and then. But like every game's gotta be this like super mature masterpiece that is like gonna change your life. And as like,
this is true.
It's like, what Sony property do you turn into Lego at this point? Like Ape Escape ain't nothing anymore. Like the closest thing would be Astrobot, I guess. But like is Astrobot big enough to do something like this yet? Like, and also Astrobot is like so tied to the Sony brand and the hardware and stuff, so you couldn't put that stuff in a game that you wanted to ship on a Nintendo platform.
Right.
So if you think about it, like, okay, lady fighting robot dinosaurs is probably the most family-friendly thing that Sony currently has going on, or probably the closest thing. Not Horizon isn't family-friendly, or I mean, it's not like, I think it's T for teen, but it's like, it's not for kids, like kids, but also it's robot dinosaurs, so you could make it for kids. So,
exactly.
So I guess like now that I think about it in that context, it's maybe less surprising. But at the time it was on State of Play, I was just like, what the? Like, I wasn't mad about it. Like, I liked the first Horizon. I've not played the second one yet, but I mean, it looks really good. So I mean, but I was just like, who was asking for this? Like, I don't have a problem with it, but who was asking for it? But the thing that I actually think is the most interesting about this is that it's not developed by Traveler's Tales. So even though it looks like those old, like Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones, stuff like that, which those were kind of the last ones I played. I think the last Lego game I played was like Lego Indiana Jones on the Wii. Or maybe PS3, I can't remember.
I don't think I've played one since like the first Star Wars one. It's been I don't know why I never like picked up the next 2 or collections or anything like that.
I mean, lately I've kind of felt like I could see myself maybe being more in the mood for a game like that, because like at the time that they were coming out, I was like, well, these are neat for the references, but the gameplay is pretty paper thin, you know. I mean, there's not much depth to the combat, and then searching for stuff is, you know, can be kind of fun, but there's not much to it. And I was like really thinking about from like, well, there's not much depth to the gameplay here. But now that I'm like an old man and sometimes like want to play something that doesn't require a lot of thought when I'm winding down in the evening, now I'm thinking like, oh, you know, those Lego games could actually maybe be kind of fun now, you know. So, however, that said, the fact that a different developer is handling it, and the fact that the way the world is constructed is different, because remember, those Lego games had the Traveler's Tales games, they have Lego characters and Lego objects around the world, but the world itself is kind of made with like real materials and grass and trees and stuff. Like, it's not Lego trees, whereas Horizon here, the whole world is made of Lego stuff. The ground, the trees, the environment, the houses, everything is Lego based. So it does give me this sense that they are doing something different with it. And even though the Lego games from Traveler's Tales are pretty, you know, mundane from a gameplay perspective, it makes me think like, oh, there could be something interesting going on here. So I bet they could be quite fun. So I'm not sold on this at all, but like I could definitely see myself getting it someday, but for PS5.
Exactly. Same boat. I in particular am drawn just by the prospect or idea of playing with Eloise someday when she's a bit older. I do plan on tricking her into playing video games in some form of chronological order with Generations. So I'm not just going to throw her into the PS5, but you know, let's cut our teeth on some 8-bit stuff first.
Yeah. That's the way it be.
But speaking of 8-bit, the Stray port looks like it's running in 8 bits because, oh my gosh.
You know what?
Woo!
At least it's not streaming.
I'll take it. Woof, man.
Yeah, it looks...
should I say meow, I guess? Gosh, it looks really rough. I get that Stray is a beautiful game, and it is one that I have on the shelf behind me that I would like to play. I picked it up in a Black Friday sale. I just haven't played it yet. But please don't play it on the Switch, whatever you do.
I played it like maybe a year ago, or a year and a half ago, I think. It was good. It was good. It took a little while to grow on me, actually. Like I wasn't really feeling it at first, but then when you start getting into these towns that sort of have some NPCs to interact with, and sort of more flexible climbing that you can do, I started to get a lot more interested. It's definitely kind of stayed with me. It's got a cool vibe to it. You know, I can't not like something where the NPCs are literally like CRTs headed robots.
You're contractually obligated to enjoy it.
Yes. But I will not be picking up the Switch version of this. I've got on PS5 and I'm happy with that.
Yep, same boat there. The next game was that Hobbit farming game. You know, we have to meet our minimum quota of 2 farming games.
Yeah, at least 2 farming games.
Sure.
I thought the art style was real rough. Like I didn't like the way the characters animate, the way they walk, just like made me feel uncomfortable. Like the animations just looked wrong. This was, I was not into that.
But then,
oh my gosh,
probably my second favorite thing from the Direct.
Oh my gosh,
Capcom loves us. Ace Attorney Investigations Collection. The entire series is here, including Investigations 2 finally translated officially into English.
Yes. I think some people were like, well, but
come on,
Leighton versus Ride isn't on Switch. It's like, but dude, it's in English and there's a physical copy on 3DS, which you can't say about Ace Attorney 5 and 6 on 3DS in English at least. So
yes.
there is a physical copy in English of every Ace Attorney game once this comes out. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for this. The missing translated Ace Attorney game. Finally, so excited. I'm actually in the middle of Great Ace Attorney Chronicles 2.
I just finished that
for
the first time. I just finished it right before Tears of the Kingdom. So what case are you in?
I think I finished the third.
Okay,
I mean, I don't want to spoil anything. The last one I was on was there was a pretty major reveal about the nature of a character who had been mentioned by name throughout the game up to this point.
Yes. Okay. I know where you're at.
Yeah.
You buckle up, dude. This game. I told I have another friend, dear Ace Attorney loving friend, and I was like, dang, I think Trials and Tribulations has met its match.
Trials and Tribulations is so good.
It is so good.
Oh my gosh, that last case! Holy crap!
Oh yeah, holy crap indeed. So you buckle up for the end of this one. It is so good.
Oh gosh, I'm excited. I actually started it right before I took my trip to Germany earlier this year, because I was like, oh well, this is a visual novel. Like I can sure play that on 8-hour flight.
Yeah.
And so that I started it. Played a little bit here and there on my trip, and then I think I wrapped up Case 3 around then. But that was also when Final Fantasy VII Rebirth came out. So Ace Attorney got sidelined, but at least I was in a good stopping point.
Yeah, you'll be able to pick it right back up.
Yeah, now that I've finished Rebirth, and I've done a few other games, like it's high on my list for getting back to, and it should be easy to pick up again for sure.
Yeah, the one thing besides the fact that they actually translated the sequel and it's all finally coming here to the West physically. I wanted to just give them the nod of they do change the art style and they give these chibi character models, like chibi-esque, but they do have the option to toggle on the pixel art for the character models, and I'm just like, thank you so much.
I mean, I was torn. Like, I thought I wouldn't really call them chibi, but
the only reason I say chibi is because the website described it as chibi. Let me double check that.
I mean, since you mention it, like maybe their proportions are a little bit off. Like the head might be a teensy bit larger now that I think about it. I mean, I'm not looking at any screenshots right now or anything, but yeah, now that but I agree. I thought the pixel art looked better. I'm curious if when you turn on the pixel art mode, if that will also give you pixel art of the larger portraits. Because in some ways,
in the trailer, the asset, like the environments, I believe stayed the same.
They stay and I thought they looked good.
The environments I do think look good. So
I have actually been wondering for a while how or if they could do HD versions of these games, because that the way that they're presented. I mean, for people who don't know, most Ace Attorney games are from a first-person perspective outside of the courtroom. When you're in the courtroom, you've got characters that fill up most of the screen, and they're highly detailed and animated. But then when you're investigating, it's from a first-person perspective, and it's more of a point-and-click type thing. But the Ace Attorney Investigations games, where you play as Miles Edgeworth, they are sprite-based games where you actually move him about the scene. So they are, and the characters are much smaller rather than filling up the entire screen. So it's a very different look, and I wasn't sure if they could convincingly HDify it. I was not offended by the HD look that they showed here, but I do think I preferred it when they showed what it looked like as sprites. Yeah.
So the website does describe it as chibi. Upgraded chibi character sprites, so do with that with what you will. And then in the trailer, around the 25-second mark, they show off Pixel and Chibi side by side. And the background is slightly crunchier. It's not full-blown pixel art, and it doesn't look poorly scaled pixel art, but it is like it's got a little crunch to it. I think in a tasteful way. Here, I'll share this screenshot with you from the video. It doesn't seem that bad to me. Like I would play these with the pixel art, I believe.
Okay, yeah, okay. His head does look weirdly big there, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but I understand why though, because why they designed the original characters with those proportions. Because for one, in pixel art, it doesn't feel weird. It and the head needs to be large enough still so that you can make out their expression, but they probably didn't want to make the overall character too big. So I understand, and they had to stick with those proportions. Now that you're showing me, I'm not a fan. I agree. I will be playing these with pixel art.
But I love that the option is there.
Yeah, and now that I look at, actually, they do, not to the same extent, but they slightly pixelate the backgrounds.
Yeah, there's just like a little bit, just a little bit of pixelation on those backgrounds.
So yeah, I agree. I 100% agree now. The pixel version is the way to go. But yeah, oh my gosh, it's going to be, I mean, there has been a fan translation for many years, and I don't mean to discount that, but just having this official translation is such a big deal.
I mean, I think the work of those fans is part of what has helped spark this Ace Attorney revolution of bringing everything to the West. Because now truly it is just, we need Ace Attorney 7, like we just need.
Yeah.
That's all that's left.
I'd love to see Layton versus Ace Attorney come back. Because I don't know if you played that one, but I think it's really good.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, for the most part, there's nowhere else to go but Ace Attorney 7.
Yeah.
So they've, even though we haven't had a new game in so long, I'd say Ace Attorney fans have been treated really well with these most recent 3 compilations. We finally got great Ace Attorney over here. Ace Attorney 4, 5, 6 collection has done so well. I'm in love with the animation studio mode that they put in there. It feels like a love letter, and just one of the best presented HD ports that I've seen in quite some time. I think that the 3D games, the Ace Attorney 5, 6, and the 2 Grace Ace Attorney games, I think they translate so well to HD. So well.
That was something I was super worried about, because I didn't think they looked all that great on 3DS. I've much preferred personally the 2D style from the DS ones, but then playing Great Ace Attorney on Switch on my TV, and then playing Great Ace Attorney 2 in 4K thanks to the Tink. Oh my gosh, it does translate so well.
I agree. I haven't really compared them directly or anything, so I'm sure they touched up the models to some extent, but they aren't, I think also just with the power of the Switch, you can get higher quality cell shading outlines. I think that was something that they really struggled with on the 3DS, probably largely in part just due to the resolution of the screen. I mean, it's 240p on the 3DS, so but yeah, I mean, I feel like that there's nothing they could do with this game that would top the quality of the Great Ace Attorney ports and the 4, 5, 6 ports. But just the mere fact that it exists is a megaton. Another megaton from this Nintendo Direct. This is, oh my gosh, this is right up there. Very, very excited.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. So there are 3 more games in the Direct. Something called the 100 Line Last Defense Academy. It's Danganronpa folks making a Danganronpa type game. Yeah,
it looks way more Danganronpa than the last thing or two.
One they did.
Yeah. What was I have it?
Rain, something Rain.
It was like did was that them that did it?
I thought
Detective
so.
Code Rain. I don't. But then there was also what was it? The other World's End Club.
I'm not familiar with that one.
That one, it was on some Nintendo Directs. I started that one, but I never finished it. Not because I wasn't generally enjoying it, but I just got sidetracked, I guess. I understand it's pretty short, so I should have continued with it. That one, like, it's got a similar art style to an extent, but it's very different. Whereas this one is just like, okay, yep, we're in an academy again.
And you're
probably people going to be murdered. It's very Danganronpa. Which I like the Danganronpa games generally, but like I'm not like a mega fan or anything. I mean, they're at the time they were coming out, they served as a somewhat quench the thirst of the lack of Ace Attorney,
It did. I like Danganronpa 1 a lot. So it was AI, the Somnum Files, and then Master Detective Archives Rain Code.
Okay, so I didn't realize that they had done that. Yeah, but then there's also World's End Club, which I'm pretty sure is connected to those people.
I don't see it on the Wikipedia page.
Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, like as soon as this trailer started, though, like you look at that main character and the way his eyes look, and it's like, this is 100% the Danganronpa guys. Like it's a weird art style. Like some of the characters like have this weird like almost like cross-eyed look, the way that they draw their eyes. Like I can't.
Yeah.
Something about like some of the character designs that these guys do, like I like, and some of them I'm just like, what? I don't know. It's a bit hit or miss for me, but I did think the game looked potentially cool. I looked up the platforms for this, and all I could find was Switch and Steam. So I bet this has performance issues on Switch with of the. It looks like there's a huge number of enemies out on this sort of strategy battlefield. I'm interested, but like not jumping up and down for it.
Exactly. Same exact boat, but I think based off our conversation earlier in the show, you are jumping up and down slightly for the next game, right? Or did I misinterpret this?
No, so this is Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven. And, I've not played a lot of the Saga games, but I've played a bit of several of them.
Like a sampling. You've sampled the Saga series.
But, I mean, I've always been very interested. And the thing that is especially exciting to me about this one, which actually it is a little weird that this is a weird situation, because similar to Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3, there is a version of this already on Switch.
Oh, really? Okay.
Hold on a second. Let me turn around and look at my shelf here, because I'm pretty sure I have it. Romancing Saga 2. I've got this is kind of a. It like I think it uses the original sprites and like higher res backgrounds, but like it kind of animates them and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's a very simple present. It's not quite HD 2D. It's a very simple style of remake. In fact, it might even be based on some mobile versions. I'm not sure. To be honest, I haven't played it yet. But this, to me,
this is the whole deal.
Well, this is a full-on 3D remake. Camera moving behind the character. I am very curious who is behind this, because the reason this excites me is because I thought it looked very similar to the 3D remake of Trials of Mana. Which I like a lot.
I could see that.
I like that a lot. Like, the thing that strikes me about that style, like, I feel like it's a very sure, this is not like, Final Fantasy VII Remake tier of production here. For sure, it's definitely like, you can clearly tell this is a game made on budget. And I think that's okay because I think they've come up with a very clean and simple style that, in my opinion, I don't think it looks cheap. I think it looks, especially, going by Trials of Mana, I thought it was a very clean style that was a great way to convey the look of a Super Famicom game in 3D. I thought it was very successful at doing that. And, I would take this style for, almost any Super Famicom RPG.
I think it looks quite nice. I just watched the trailer again. It reminds me, it gives me some PS2, PS3 energy, but like to me looks more polished just visually, like smoother assets and things. I like it. It's kind of homey. It feels a little homey to me.
There's something down to earth about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the industry has had so much trouble with, all these, overinflated budget games. And, when I see something like this, I'm like, look, if you can pull off something of this tier and for that to, be enough of a success, like I'm okay with developers like targeting this tier of graphics. And so to me, this strikes me as a very appealing way for me to play through this game for the first time, even though it's obviously going to be quite different from the Super Famicom original. But I think it'll be I think it will almost certainly be better than, the sort of cheapy version that's already on Switch. So I want to see Square Enix do more games of this tier. Now, is it appropriate for a Final Fantasy VI or a Chrono Trigger? People would probably be expecting something a little more out of that, or like you mentioned previously, an HD 2D of those games. I think that they deserve something, really flashy, but if they just got something like this, but we're still very faithful to the original, I'd be okay with that. I would be okay with that. I like this style of remake. It feels very just honest and down to earth and not overinflated, but polished for what it is. So I like this. I'm excited about this. I pre-ordered it on PS5. And speaking of which,
that's the trend of the show.
I think it was on the DF Direct that they did a bonus DF Direct on this Nintendo Direct, where they comment, and this didn't jump out to me while I was watching the trailer, but they're like, "This is 60 frames per second. The Switch is not going to be playing this game at 60 frames per second." Which, that's not to say that, Switch, the next game is also 60 frames per second and looks a lot more impressive. But that said, like, I don't foresee them getting 60 frames per second out of an Unreal game. This is almost certainly Unreal because the Trials of Mana was Unreal, and the visual style looks very similar to me. So it's just, Trials of Mana was 30 frames per second on Switch. It was 60, or at least targeted 60 on PS4. Didn't hit it, but played on PS5 and it's totally fine. But regardless, that there is a bit of skepticism about whether that particular game was captured on Switch. But it doesn't matter because I'm buying it on PS5.
There you go. So that's cool. It was good to see that. Just for I know there are a lot of fans of that particular series. And then we get the closer, the one more thing. I gotta be honest, I didn't think it'd show up. I just kind of thought it would be part of Super Switch crossover type title, a la Breath of the Wild, a la Twilight Princess. But they showed it off. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond.
I like I kind of like the logo, like that kind of like black hole object.
Yes, I like the purple and I like the vibe of it. We see it, and I won't lie, Samus hops out of her ship, and this choir comes in. All right, we're here, baby. Let's go. Oh my gosh, chills. The choir chills. It is very much a Metroid Prime game. Very beautiful, very retro in that retro studio, not retro art style. They kind of just showed off the things that say Prime. She scanned a dead space pirate. She shot a few of them. Morph ball going into that third person.
Yeah. I'm guessing this was kind of like a slice of the game that's like very much the beginning, sort of a linear section that's setting up the story. And then at the very end, they kind of show that vista shot with like the gigantic tree and the streams and waterfalls. And I'm sure that's much more representative of kind of the more wide open areas that you will get to explore. I think this was kind of just like a bit of a action set piece similar to the beginning of almost any Metroid game, right?
Yeah, I think it just sets the tone and pace and gets you hooked in early. I think that's kind of what they would show. And I'm obviously excited. I love Metroid Prime. I'm doing a season on that for Chapter Select. That's next on our list. It's in production. We're getting ready to record that sweet Federation Force episode actually next week. So, I love Prime. I'm excited. But this, I feel like it's a Super Switch game too. Like, I feel like it's doing the cross thing.
I think so. I mean, I've thought that for a long time. I think this is either going to be a launch game or a near launch game. I do think what we saw was Switch. I think it was
I
do
agree with that. Nintendo would not mislead in that way.
No,
I don't believe that.
Retro Studios does 60 frames per second. It's 60 frames per second here. It's going to be 60 frames per second on Switch. It might not be 100% perfect, but I bet it will be pretty darn good. I mean, look at Metroid Prime Remastered. That was incredibly well done. Like, I like at first, like, that was coming out like last year, and even then I'm thinking like, oh, this is getting kind of near the end of the Switch's life. Like, I wish we'd get a remaster of this or a remake or whatever you want to call it on the Switch 2, Super Switch. But then I played it. I'm like, this is all it needs to be.
This is perfect.
It was just perfect. Like, what I loved about it was it kind of, a lot of people have this perception that it's like actually not that much of a remake.
It's a full thing.
I mean, it's very faithful to the original, but they overhauled all the assets. But the thing is, the reason people don't think it goes for what I would call a as you remember it look. Like, the way you remember it in your head, like looking that good, it looks like that. And it holds up so good. It like, once I played that, like, that increased my hype for Metroid Prime 4 significantly. Cause I'm like, man, they've done it. Like, this, like, Metroid Prime 4 doesn't really need to be anything above and beyond what they've already done here with Metroid Prime Remastered. So
it's all art direction and just optimizing for the hardware. In retro is they're masters of optimizing for hardware. Look at what they did with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Wii U. Are you kidding me? Donkey Kong looks immaculate.
Yes. The first shading is like, is good, like, at least at the distance from the camera that he is, and the resolution the game is, like, it's as good as the first shading in like a CG movie. It's like,
they are masters of this. And clearly you just look at Tropical Freeze on Switch, Metroid Prime Remastered. They may not have the highest output of a studio, and I think there's been a lot of turmoil there, kind of as they've sifted through projects and things that have, who knows. And if anything, if you just take that speculation and then you look at all of the stuff that Did You Know Gaming has pulled up over the last couple of years from their interviews with former Retro staff, that studio is pitch crazy. All these wild Zelda games that were pitched is so cool.
Yeah.
If you are at all interested in retro or Lost Zelda history or Star Fox or F-Zero anything, go to the Did You Know Gaming channel and watch those videos. There was a tactics game they pitched very far. There was a Sheikah game. There's just really cool history, and I'm glad that it's been able to be brought to light, especially since stuff doesn't seem to will manifest in any way in the future. But Prime 4 Beyond, they gave us a date of 2025, thus further reaffirming to me this is a cross-gen title. And I'm fine with that.
Oh yes,
I'm here for it, and just
I hope it is, because as good as this looks, I would love to play it on a system where it looks even better.
Yep, I'm in the same camp there with that. It's just good to see it. It's just kind of felt like a little bit of a homecoming for Prime, because the last game was Federation Force, technically. And if you don't count that, Corruption. I mean, it's been a very long time. It's almost been a decade. It's almost a decade since Federation Force?
No, more a decade, because Prime 3 was 2007.
Yeah.
2007!
Yeah, and Federation Force was 2016. So by the time Prime 4 comes out, it'll have been 9-ish years.
Did Retro even do Federation Force?
No. Sure. That was Next Level Game, or whoever did Luigi's Mansion 2 and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, they do good. I mean, they're really talented too.
They are. I was playing Federation Force for the podcast, and I kept hearing the sound effect. I'm like, I swear, that's from Luigi's Mansion 2. And I look it up, and it absolutely is the same studio. So
wow,
they do good stuff. Federation Force is I would say it is not a Prime game.
Yeah, I did not play that much of it. Talented studio, but kind of a game founded on a premise no one wanted.
Yes. If I may, do you care about narrative spoilers from Federation Force?
Not at all.
All right. Well, if you do, listener, skip ahead a little bit. So there's a mission in Federation Force where you are sent to go get a Metroid egg. You're like, go get this Metroid egg. It'll be great for research. I got major Aliens vibes. Like, trust us, we'll do good research with a Metroid egg.
Yeah.
So you get to the end of the level, and then everything starts blowing up, and the guy's like, forget the egg. You don't need to grab it. Just get out of there. Well, you can still get the egg, and if you manage to bring it out, and I did not know this at the time, but I did it anyway because I needed some sort of challenge in the game. And if you do that, you get a secret cutscene at the end. And that secret cutscene at the end is a chibi model of Silex, the other bounty hunter from Prime Hunters, and who shows up in the Prime 4 Beyond trailer, stealing the Metroid egg. So this shot in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond directly ties into the end of Federation Force.
Which is the game no one plays.
Exactly. So I just found that. I lost it on the inside. I'm like, of course they acknowledge.
And there's like these Metroids like hovering, like seemingly like
pets,
like loyal to him. Yes.
So that is a very interesting concept to me narratively, and just the fact that they acknowledge Federation Force.
I'm sure there will be some sort of like summary or reference to catch you up to speed a little bit at the beginning.
There has to be.
Who played Federation Force?
And really, who played Hunters? A lot of people did, but like that's so I haven't played Corruption, but does Silex show up in Corruption?
I've only played through Corruption one time, and it was back when it came out in 2007. So
yeah.
By the way, I've not played Federation Force because I was conflating Hunters and Federation Force in my head as the same game.
Yeah,
I played a bit of Hunters back in the day. I've never played Federation Force.
You're not missing much. Not to totally allude to the episode that we will be recording, but it is a game that it reminds me a lot of like Dinosaur Planet, aka Star Fox Adventures. It's like, this would be a kind of a cool idea for a game. What if we attach one of our IP to it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, you know, kind of like I don't know, like if you've ever seen it, but like it kind of makes me think about how the most recent Predator movie called Prey ties into something that happens at the end of Predator 2, that like all of these bad Predator movies in the interim, like
just get ignored.
They set up something that could have been really cool to follow up on, and they just never did it until this new movie that's actually by far the best Predator movie since the first one.
Yep.
And they finally like followed up on it. So like, and Predator 2 is like not that great of a movie itself. So like, it kind of makes me think of that, where it's like, wow, they're like going all in on like following up on this, the plot and characters of a game no one cares about in this upcoming sequel that everyone cares about.
Exactly.
Like that's like kind of ballsy in a way that even though I haven't played it, like I'm not mad about it. I'm like that's kind of cool that they're going for it.
It is. And again, I just beat it earlier this year. A month ago, maybe at this point. So it's all very fresh, and I'm just shocked, just stunned, really. And that I stumbled into that bonus end credit scene without trying or even knowing it was possible. That's super cool. Now, Hunters, I played the crap out of as a kid because like I was that perfect age at DS. And so I was in there on the multiplayer, running around as the one that like it was a squid looking thing.
Did you use a stylus or did you use the little thumb thing?
Stylus. I was not coordinated enough for the thumb thing. But stylus for sure. So I'm happy about that. But Metroid Prime 4 looks good 2025. And that's how they close the show, man. So I think we said it at the top that this Direct really is one of the greats. And I think after going through it again, this is a Hall of Famer in the context of Directs. It's just got banger after banger. And even, I mean, there were some lulls, like Disney to Farmagia, Funko Vision for Pete's sake. Like, I'm not saying everything here, but I think the highs were high. Like, truly
they were high. Like almost like, why didn't you save some of these for another show? Like,
yeah,
what do you have to show us next time? Like, seriously.
And it's interesting, again, to kind of remind myself and the listener here, the Switch is presumably on its way out the door with a successor like looming. I mean, it's so much so that Nintendo even said when they announced the Direct, there will be no news on the Switch successor here. Like, they have to acknowledge that. Like, that's the level of demand. That's how close we are. And they did the same thing with Switch, aka NX. They were like, it won't be NX at this time. We're just going to talk about the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild or things like that. So whatever the successor is here is close. And assumptions are flying around, that it could be a spring release like the Switch was, 7 years ago. So I feel like to have this caliber of games packing out the very end, what a strong and high note for the Switch to go out on.
I mean, has any system gone out on this? I mean, think back through Nintendo's history. The Wii U certainly didn't.
No,
the Wii didn't. The GameCube didn't. The N64 certainly didn't. I mentioned earlier I bought Conker's Bad Fur Day. I'm pretty sure that was a 2001 release, same year GameCube release. The only major games that year were, I think Paper Mario was that year. Conker's Bad Fur Day was that year. And then I don't know, Dr. Mario 64 and Mario Party 3 might have been that year.
Sure,
but those aren't Paper Mario and Conker were like the big ones. So it's, it is, even go back to Super Nintendo. I mean, you've got Mario. I mean, Super Nintendo did have a pretty darn good last year. Yeah, Kirby Superstar, Donkey Kong Country 3, Super Mario RPG. That was a really good year. But NES had some of the NES's best games came out after the Super Nintendo was already out. But I mean, you look at the 3DS. I mean, the 3DS I feel like kind of.
I think the 3DS went on too long. Like it just had a year too long.
Yeah, it kind of went out on a whimper, right?
Mm-hmm. This is, it makes me also wonder what they saved for Switch 2. Like, so again, we're operating with a Metroid assumption.
Yeah.
I personally feel like the next 3D Mario may not be a launch title, but they're gonna reveal
it'll be in the first year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so you just, dang man, Nintendo we're going for it.
I mean, yeah, I cannot think of any system that has been wound down in this way. I mean, when they announced Nintendo World Championships, like that set the tone.
Yes.
For this year.
Yeah.
Like that was like,
I guess we're going out like this.
Yeah. I mean, that was like, I was like, okay, this is cool. I definitely want to pre-order a physical copy of this, but, yeah, it was like that. I was like, yep, this is, we're going to be getting stuff like this year.
And then these guys go, no, Dragon Quest, Zelda, a new Zelda game.
Mario and Luigi, like Kirby is the only thing missing here.
Truly. And I thought there would be a Kirby game, but I guess we got that return, or which one just was remade?
Last year was Return to Dreamland.
It was Return to Dreamland.
DX. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But oh gosh, I can't wait for the next 3D Kirby. I mean, now since that wasn't announced here, like that's almost a shoo-in. The next 3D. I mean, assuming they make a sequel to Forgotten Land in that same gameplay style, like that's going to be a Switch 2 title, and oh my gosh, maybe it'll be 60 frames per second.
Robobot or whatever would be remade. Like I kind of thought I could see the Switch going out. I thought the Switch would go out with that. Like that made logical sense to me.
That would be a good one because I mean that might be that. There's an argument to be made that's the best Kirby game. It's really good, and I would love for it to be on any system other than the 3DS.
But yeah, man. I think so. That does it. I think for the Direct. Thank you, Try.
Yeah. I mean, my goodness, I thought we were like going down the list. I'm like, oh, we're like really far down, and we're only like an hour and 15 minutes in. This might be shorter than most podcasts I record. And oops, we hit 3 hours on our recording here at least.
I think this might be the longest episode in the history of my show. It might be. I'd have to check. But I absolutely love that.
Well,
so
I mean, there's like so much to talk about with like, again, aside from Kirby, like every beloved Nintendo thing ever.
It's that Smash kind of moment. Everyone is here.
Yeah, everyone's here. Plus, we've got Hironobu Sakaguchi here. We've got Dragon Quest here. We've got
Marvel vs. Capcom.
Ace Attorney.
Ace Attorney.
Like, holy crap. Like, what? Like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean,
dreams come true.
I mean, you remember that one year's Sony E3 that was like the games that you thought would never happen? I don't know if this is quite that, but like, remember that one?
That was like Shenmue, Final Fantasy 7,
and Last Guardian.
Oh yeah, I was in the movie theater for that. You remember when they did those movie theaters? You could watch E3 at the movie theater.
Oh, I forgot about that.
The whole theater was erupting. I mean, just absolute bonkers. You'd thought it was an MCU, finale.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this isn't like, some of these might be game, like, there were games like Dragon Quest 3 that was kind of like, man, it's been a long time since we got an update on this. Maybe it's not happening anymore. And then, Metroid Prime 4, I mean, obviously we knew it was coming, but it'd just been so long. Things like Zelda getting her own game, things like Ace Attorney Investigations 2 getting localized, things like Hironobu Sakaguchi's game not being on mobile anymore. I mean, this is, it's not that far from that level of like, oh my gosh, here are 3 games at the Sony conference that seemed like they would never happen that everyone wanted. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is, not just within Nintendo. I mean, this is among the all-time great video game presentations. I mean, it really is. I think this is it's the tail end of the Switch's life. Like,
it's truly the craziest part about it, and it makes me feel even better about Super Switch.
Yeah, because everyone's been saying like, apparently like everyone expected it to come out this year, and then it's like, it sounds like it's going to be delayed to 2025. And, the rumors say, whether they're substantiated by reliable sources or not, the rumors say that the software just wasn't ready. So evidently they have been banking software for Switch 2. Mm-hmm. Well, if it's not this, what? I mean,
what is it?
I mean, I do think Metroid Prime 4 and, possibly some of these other games. I'm sure we'll see games like Mario and Luigi and games that are already out, like, some of the most popular Switch games. I'm sure we'll see some updates where they, look a little better, run a little better,
I mean, you've got to get Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Plus ready for Super Switch launch.
Yeah, get some 120 FPS Mario Kart. Why not?
Oh, my God. Can you just imagine that Mario Kart 9 finally will be announced? Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. That'll be a moment.
I mean, the last time we got a new Mario Kart game that wasn't mobile was the Wii U.
Well, they haven't had reason to, because like Mario Kart 8 is somehow still like regularly one of the top selling games.
It's so
every
good.
Week.
How does everyone not just,
how
do you not just everyone own it?
People that don't have it?
I don't know. I thought they just handed it to people, like they have a kid and they leave the hospital and they're like, and here's your copy of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I don't know, man. You'd think everyone. It's kind of like it's like Nintendo's Grand Theft Auto 5. Like how do people not just already own it? I don't know. It's crazy. But thank you so much, Try, for coming back and talking about all this with me. This was an absolute blast. Folks can find you over on YouTube at My Life in Gaming, one of my favorite channels online. Like I said earlier, new video comes up, immediate click. Always watching My Life in Gaming, so thank you so much. You guys are cranking out some more stuff this year, like you were talking about. You teased a little bit. Some black.
Yeah, we're not as quick as we used to be, but we're doing better than we were last year.
And that's right. Thanks to your Synology, and just wait till you get fiber. You'll be really cooking.
Yeah, it's coming soon.
Yeah, so please go check all of that stuff out. As for myself, you can find my writing over at maxfrequency.net, and my other show, Chapter Select. We're a seasonal retrospective podcast where we bounce back and forth between a series, exploring its evolution, design, and legacy. Season 7, which is next, is Metroid Prime. We are chipping away and building that out, getting it ready to launch, and then following up with Castlevania after that. So it is kind of like Try just said about their own work, not as fast as they used to be. It's a little slower than I would like, but we are getting it all cooked and ready for you, so hopefully you will enjoy that. But until next time, thank you all so much for listening, and adios.